welcome back everyone to Red Spotlight. I'm your host Alexis Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez for I think the first time in almost a month. It's been a while since you've been on the show, but thank you for
the first time
in forever. Literally. But yeah, there are a couple of podcasts going on. You've got Turn to Page with Peter is on with the Morenos. You know, he's been spending his time with them and doing the Harry Potter talks as I foresaw would happen. But okay, I mean, I told everybody that would happen, but nobody listened to me.
I did one.
Yeah, sure.
I did one.
No, okay, whatever. Also, the Fantasy Fair podcast, I have been told, made its grand return from hiatus.
No.
Let me tell you something.
That's no.
I'll tell you the story. Kyle, I was invited to be on that show, but because I had work to do, Alexis and Kyle ended up doing it on their own. But Kyle got the itch to do something again, and so he got bored, basically. He wanted to bring it back. And I tell you, the first show they did back wasn't the Encanto review. Although Kyle promises it's gonna happen. When it happens, who knows? But he says it's coming.
He has altered the deal. The deal was the next episode was supposed to be the Encanto review. And you know what? Shame on you, Ms. Moreno. You, of all people, should know better.
That's
and you should have put a stop to it.
That's basically like the Democrats trusting Joe Manchin, who basically, jerked their chain for a whole year saying that he would support reconciliation and didn't.
And is Moreno Joe Biden? Or
I guess Moreno is like the idiots who believed them and just went ahead and went along with the original reconciliation package.
Yeah,
from
Joe
2021.
Biden.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Does that make me Kamala?
No, God no. No. But it wasn't it. Look. They were looking for concepts for episodes, and the first show they did, I did make a list, so it was a list rank show. It was their top 10 favorite Disney animated only movies of all time. Of the 60 animated films from Disney Animation Studios, their top 10.
Okay, and I'm also, for one, the only one out of any of you bitches who has seen every single official Disney animated
Am I to understand
film,
you feel offended that you, as the self-proclaimed highest or biggest Disney fan, you weren't invited to attend?
You
wouldn't have been available anyway, let's be real.
Sure, I'm just saying this is all I'm seeing a lot of snake behavior. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I wasn't the snake that organized it.
Okay.
Then again, the snake that organized this will never listen to this discussion to begin with, so
slippery and slimy, that's all I'm saying.
Were you curious to see what movies I had in my top 10, or you just don't give a shit?
Was Encanto in there?
It was.
Oh my god.
Yeah, my reason.
You hated that film.
Sure, I did. Yeah, right.
And I'm also the only one who had a clear and concise ranked list of every single film. This is bullshit. Oh my gosh.
I think that's a bit disingenuous of you. You did not have a ranked list. You had a tiered list.
Oh.
That is, whatever. There is a distinction there. You had a tiered list, which Kyle could have read, but chose not to. He probably forgot it even existed. No, the 10 movies I had were Encanto, Zootopia.
Wait, is it in any order or like? What?
No, it's an exact
10 going
order.
up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, because a lot of the Disney animated films I love and appreciate for what they are, but very few of them actually get me really passionate and excited about filmmaking. So these are the ones that Encanto. I'm a brown person, so there you go. So that's all the reasoning there is, and I love the representation and the music.
Gross.
Zootopia, powerful freaking message and hilarious and clever. Cinderella is also pretty hilarious. I love her as a character. Pretty classic fairy tale. Yes, the rats, of course. Then Tangled at number 7.
Oh, yeah, you love Tangled.
And then 6, The Princess and the Frog.
Ooh,
who doesn't love Tiana? 5. This is actually one of your lesser favorite ones, but this is to me, again, the top 5 are the films that I literally rewatched the most. So 5 is Aladdin, 4 The Lion King, 3, Lilo and Stitch. That may, I guess, be a bit of a hot take. I don't know. I think that film's still pretty beloved. 20 years later. 2, Beauty and the Beast, and then 1, Little Mermaid. So I got, Disney Renaissance era, 1 from the classic and the Walt Disney era, and then I feel 4 from the revival era. 4 from the Renaissance, 4 from the revival, 1 from the classic Walt Disney era, and then 1 from the 2000s, which was a pretty dry spell for...
That was very dry.
Yeah, for Disney animated movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know what my number 1 would be.
The honorable mentions were Mulan, Pinocchio.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh,
Pinocchio, I'm blanking out. The Emperor's New Groove, Wreck-It Ralph, and Moana. Those were the honorable mentions.
I like Pinocchio because it just teaches kids, like, life will chew you up and spit you out. And
yeah.
Don't be a piece of shit.
Pinocchio is brutal.
Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, I think I would... what was your number 1 again?
The number 1 was Little Mermaid, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Sense. Do you know about the original tale of Little Mermaid?
Yeah, she dies and turns into, like, soap water or whatever.
But do you know why?
Because she...
No, but do you know, like, the meaning behind the story?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because of the Hans Chris Andersen, the one that wrote it. Yeah, I know that story of his love and everything.
Yeah. It's
it's very curious.
See, that's the thing. After learning that, I was like, I would love to see a film of the retelling. I'd love to see another Little Mermaid movie, but of that
version of it. Yeah,
I think that would be really
not the one we're getting. I guess next year.
No,
because that one
it's just the same but worse. Well, think about it. It's the same issue we're having this year, where we're gonna have that shitty live action Pinocchio, and then we're gonna have
the Guillermo del
Toro's Pinocchio that's about like fascism in Italy.
I forgot that shitty live action one was coming out this year.
You didn't see the trailer?
No, because I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that movie. And you know what? Look. I think all of them, of these recent live action remakes, I've hated them. But look at my top 3. Lilo and Stitch and Little Mermaid are in that top 3, and those are live action remakes that are
and
on
you love
us.
Aliens.
Yes, but here's the thing. Sense. I'm gonna be so upset when that Little Mermaid movie comes out. I already know I am.
Yeah,
and even more so. And this just feels really ill-conceived. I don't even care. It actually makes it even more disgusting to me that they got the Marcel director to do it. But I guess he's the new director for the Lilo and Stitch live-action remake, which... God, fuck Disney, man. Fuck them. Like, these movies are amazing. And to just, like, do them again, but so much worse...
That's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, well, it's a remake. It's this is that. Well, first of all, I'm not just going to accept a remake for a remake. Of a Star Wars remake was announced tomorrow, I would say go fuck yourself because there's nothing to improve upon.
Or an Indiana Jones remake with Chris Pratt, as people were like suggesting years back.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself. Or you could say like, well, no, it's a retelling. We're changing things. It's like, okay, then tell the original story because that's new. That's different. That would be interesting. I would love, like I said, for Little Mermaid to see that original fairy tale be told, but like. That's not the way Disney rolls.
No, not at all.
Honestly, the only one I'm kind of looking forward to is the Peter Pan one.
Oh, because it has David Lowery, right?
David Lowery, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a great filmmaker. He's already had one, hasn't he? He's already had a live-action remake with Disney.
Pete's Dragon.
Yeah.
And that's the only one where people are like, yeah, it's pretty good.
I think that's one of the few I haven't seen. Honestly, lately I've skipped a whole bunch of them. I didn't see the Tim Burton Dumbo one because why would I?
Oh, fuck that. Who cares? Yeah.
I mean, it was as bad as I'm sure everybody was saying it was. I, of course, skipped Through the Looking Glass, which you say you fell asleep at years back.
Bad. That was a bad experience. Yeah.
That one slipped through the cracks for me, the Pete's Dragon one. But the best ones I think have been Cinderella, the Kenneth Branagh Cinderella one. That's it. I don't know. I don't consider Christopher Robin a remake. I thought that was pretty decent. It's not great, but it's decent. It's standard. It's very standard.
It's a live action Winnie the Pooh film.
It is. But I mean, it's a far cry from like the depths of atrociousness that a lot of these movies honestly have like found themselves to be.
There was an attempt there to do something a little different. I would say with Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, there's somewhat of an attempt, like Chip and Dale.
Yeah, that's a
very different thing.
Oh, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I think I know what my number one would be.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess?
Not Encanto, would it? Would it be Encanto?
Lilo and Stitch.
Okay, yeah. It's an amazing film.
It's so great. I don't know. I love it. It's just...
I think that's a special movie, and that's why I'm particularly offended, more so than any of the other ones, that one's getting a live action remake.
That was just like, god damn. Like, it doesn't need it. It's just so unnecessary. But I mean, that's just Disney today. Like,
does Cruella count as a live action remake?
See, that's the thing. They started doing live action remakes, but then at the same time, Maleficent took off. Yeah. So then they tried to kind of do that too.
I didn't like Maleficent. Oh, I forgot. There's a freaking Maleficent too. I forgot about that one. I didn't even see that.
They got a sequel.
That's crazy.
I didn't like it either because again, it's the same thing of like she's actually good. I don't know.
I was highly entertained though with Cruella, but that's me. I know you were like.
I was entertained and the just like, oh my god, like this is a movie. This is holy shit. She literally had like a Han Solo movement, like cruel.
That was so funny.
Hella.
I'm sorry that worked for me though, because it's just so stupid. It's stupid.
Like looked up, like stroking her chin.
Right.
Like, oh my god. Like the needle drops literally every 2 seconds.
I know, that was excessive. I mean, that probably put Suicide Squad to shame.
Oh yes, and it's crazy that I think people don't complain about that more because it was embarrassing.
No, that's a big issue. It was, yeah, that was too much.
And like you literally get her entire life, and it's like Dalmatians killed her mom. The last minute twist, that's not her. You gotta be real
though, man. Oh my god! That scene of the Dalmatians like killing the mom has to be one of the funniest things ever put to film.
It's so funny.
I think it's up there with like young Black Bolt killing his parents in Inhumans. Like what? Yeah. And then what? also in Iron Fist. This is like all I remember of Iron Fist, when the freaking like the airplane, there was a hole that burst open and the parents flew out, and like I think they cut back to that scene like 10 times throughout the whole season.
Well, they spent the money on it. That's where all the money went, so of course they had to keep cutting back to it.
Or, well, it is funny, but it's just also enraging. The Mufasa being killed by Scar in the 2019 version.
Oh, that's so bad. It's so funny. Help me. It's so bad. It's so bad. I'm sorry. Like live action Disney. I can complain about all of Disney here and there, but live action Disney is just in the fucking toilet. It's so much worse than everything else.
Yeah. Well, yes, it is. It is. I would say some things I would say have an entertainment value that even Sony can't quite capture themselves. But then again, Sony is also, I think, circling the drain.
Have you not seen Morbius?
Exactly my point, though. I don't need to see
legend?
Morbius. Yeah, they call him a freaking Marvel legend. No, I think, like, honestly, look, I know you probably would differ with some of these, but the ones that I would say have entertained me in the last few years, I mean, these are very few movies, like live-action movies in general. The Chip and Dale one from Disney+. Christopher Robin, Cruella, and Mary Poppins Returns.
I found all 4 of those mildly entertaining.
No, yeah, but
That's
I mean,
the thing. It's not even
mildly
like,
entertaining though is like amazing considering all the other stuff that surrounds it in that studio. Like, I'm not saying those things are anything special, but
I mean, like, if you break up Disney by like departments, like you have
sure.
The animation, which is Walt Disney Animation Studios, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and then the live action Disney films. Like, the live action Disney films are by far the bottom of the barrel.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, look at the crap they cranked out on Disney Plus, like that Home Alone reboot that everyone remember that? I mean, of course you can't because like it was so forgettable.
No one talks about it. But that's the thing. When it's forgettable and they crank it out on Disney Plus, people forget. But when they release it in theaters, people go watch that shit and then they forget a day later. The Lion King remake made $1 billion. No one talks about it.
1.6 billion.
1.6, and people give zero shit.
Technically speaking, Lion King 2019 is the highest grossing animated film of all time.
That's embarrassing.
It is. I think the second one would be Frozen 2, though. Which I know. By the way, this is a hot take because I know I've been rather like confrontational to you about like how much I love that one and how much you hate it. Kyle put that in his top 10.
Really?
I think that's what he told me. Yes, Frozen 2.
No wonder I wasn't invited on.
Oh, that's right. I guess we solved it. Wow.
It's okay, Kyle. I'm coming for you.
Oh shit! I mean, you're coming for the Encanto review.
Yes, it's happening. By God, it's happening.
I guess it'll happen sometime. I guess the last one I actually loved from the Disney live action unit would be 2014 Muppets Most Wanted.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah. But I consider that like I don't know.
Not even like
Disney completely changed the way that it works around 2012.
Absolutely.
It just completely, entirely changed. I think everything, all the movies before
because those early 2010s were still pretty good. I mean, talking about Saving Mr. Banks, Tron Legacy was there, The Muppets in 2011. You still got some good ones in there.
And then that's when they had their whole thing with Jerry Bruckheimer. And they were doing shit like that. But the second that they acquired Star Wars, and then they acquired Marvel, they just changed the way that they worked, right? And then they kind of shifted all their live action stuff to the remakes because they're like, hey, it's killing.
It's making a lot of money. I mean, the business model is there. At least the justification for making these movies is there from a money standpoint.
I think even at that's when Pixar really started to lean into the sequels. Like,
technically that was 2000. I think as early as 2012, wasn't it? 2011.
That's what
actually.
I said. 2012.
Yeah.
That's the point where the studio really just shifted,
went all in that.
So yeah, it's I don't know if I would consider. I would say that's a different era.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've seen them, but they have released some great documentaries. I think that was in the later 2000s, like The Boys. Not The Boys Amazon series. I mean, like there's like I think a Richard Sherman and Robert Sherman documentary. There's also a. Have you seen Waking Sleeping Beauty? The film, the documentary film. It's on Disney Plus, obviously, but it's a great documentary on like how the animation studio was revived at the beginning of the Renaissance with Little Mermaid. It's a really great documentary, one of the best I've seen. Which, by the way, I can't say for a lot of the quote-unquote documentaries that they have on Disney Plus. I know I mentioned this in the last episode that you weren't on. I want to be also, by the way, I'm sorry, this intro went on a long time. Today we're discussing Thor: Love and Thunder and Miss Marvel, and then all the revelations. So that's our show today, guys. Sorry about that. This is Red Spotlight number 408. 407. I'm all over the place. So I saw I think 59-minute. That's too short for a documentary, but the making of, I guess, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness on Disney Plus, and it was garbage. I mean, they had a fun little like intro with Bruce Campbell. Nice to see him like getting work and getting a paycheck, but You only got like at most, I'm talking here like 5 to 8 minutes of Raimi talking, and the rest is just other people saying, "We're making a movie, and here's this actor, and look, here we are, and this is how we filmed this, and by the way, there's Professor X, and oh yeah." What a waste of time. What a complete waste of time. They didn't even, it was weird. They didn't even mention Black Bolt or Mr. Fantastic.
Because
at all.
At the time that they were filming it, they had no idea that they were going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's really hard to do these behind the scenes movies when you have no idea the kind of movie you're making. Until
it's all said and done, basically.
Yeah. Like this keeps happening with Marvel where it's like they're changing the script.
I mean, an example we'll get to right now is with Taika Waititi. He revealed that there was one particular scene that was shot 3 times because the motivation for the villain was still being rewritten after post-production, after the film had already been shot.
Yeah. And I understand, like, a lot of people used to say, like, well, reshoots happen, right? Like don't get scared about reshoots when it comes to movies. Like it's normal. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. But now when it comes to Marvel, like you should be worried because they've taken this opportunity of quote unquote reshoots to just not be finished with the movie. And when I mean not be finished, I mean not even have like a story or a
script isn't even done.
Yeah.
We saw it happen with Doctor Strange. Like, things automatically were added in at the last minute with reshoots. We saw it happen with Love and Thunder. Again, Taika Waititi said that he was still, like, figuring out the motivation for Gore. And then, of course, we'll get to Ms. Marvel. There was a pretty big thing that was added in very clearly at the last moment possible during those reshoots. This continuously happens across the board, and there's one person alone who deserves the blame for that. And that's Kevin Feige.
And it's really getting annoying how it's not going towards him.
Yeah, right? Like, if people, the fans, particularly the big Marvel stans, feel the need to attack literally everyone else besides Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
They attack Raimi. They attack Taika. They attack...
And I think, especially specifically looking at Ms. Marvel, that is 100% on him. Like you could maybe say, yeah, I got issue with Taika's humor and this and that.
The writer, Bisha K. Ali, made it very clear with that last revelation of the mutant stuff. By the way, spoilers all the way throughout, was dropped in at the last minute. I think there was an interview I sent you over that said that was the last thing they read at the script. Like, oh, she's a mutant. Cool.
And even then, they're like, well, what does this mean? Wait, what do you... They try to get any sort of understanding of what's going on.
And all he told them, just play the theme song.
Just shoot the scene and play and do the song. And like...
He refused to divulge any story information about that. It's just like,
any deeper understanding of what's going on. So I guarantee you, the writers wrote a story taking a lot of inspiration from the Inhumans. Maybe... They were told, they tried to use Inhumans and were told, like, no, you can't do that. They're like, well, okay, we'll do something similar. We'll have a Kree here. We'll talk about, like, how it comes from within her and just a lot of shit, to just sort of give hints to Inhumans and not even hints, but like a loving, like, nod to her original origin. And then at the very end, all of that is undone. Because Kevin Feige, he's like, well, the plan has, the deal has changed. Pray I do not alter the deal further. And now, at the last minute, he's like, oh, I can use this to segue into X-Men.
Yeah.
And...
Well, you know what? Since we're there...
That hurts stories.
It hurts the stories. I mean, and it hurts the stories across the board for your entire studio. But let's just go ahead and get there. Because the whole, I think, ethos of this episode is to really discuss what are all the problems that are happening right now with Marvel Studios, right? Here's, I guess, my theory of the case. And I don't mean to gloat and everything, but I feel that you particularly, Peter, and I think also myself to an extent, called it 3 whole years ago at Comic-Con 2019 when they had that massive presentation at Hall H from Kevin Feige. This whole notion out there of this Phase 4 being aimless. First of all, this is the problem this is really the trade-off when you make all your films feel like big budgeted TV episodes in this overall like TV series, instead of, you know, them having their own little franchises and having their own identity or their own stamp. This is the trade-off, because when you have so many of them that are not connecting to a bigger through line, people are going to ask themselves, well, wait a minute, I thought I was watching MCU Part 29, not a individual, you know, one-off that goes nowhere. That, I think, is the issue. But I think also people need to be smarter about this. At no point did they make a statement that, like, these movies would be interconnected. People just assume because that's their gimmick. But also, I would say a reasonably minded person would look at all of the projects that have been in Phase 4 that were announced back then. I think most of which have already aired or have already debuted in theaters. If you look at that list, you can easily discern there doesn't seem to be any through line there. But I think you and I have argued, though, that what's the problem that's hurting all of them individually is that Marvel still feels the need to create some kind of contrived through line by continuously like inserting sequences, scenes, or characters that for no like natural reason whatsoever connect to each other. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem that's going on here. I mean, that's my theory of the case that's happening here. By the way, I want to make sure I'm going to Comic-Con. It seems like this week.
Oh, really?
And I'm going to be there on Saturday. So
you will get COVID.
Yeah. I think I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen video. Dear Lord, you will get something.
No, I'm going to get sick probably.
I don't.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to have an N95 mask. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's getting a vaccine. But we'll see. Yeah, literally STDs. No.
Those crowds.
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna get it because I don't want to jinx it. So
I'm gonna say you will.
See. I'm gonna say I'm not.
I'll say you will, and then
I think you're being salty. I just had it.
Yeah. Those new variants—they're pretty crazy.
Well, now you're making me regret even saying that. But anyway, I'll be there and I'll ask Feige these questions. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be hosting the panel.
I want the FBI to understand that he will be there to assassinate Kevin Feige.
No, that's not happening.
Get on it, FBI. It's 100% true. I read his manifesto.
Okay.
He's doing it for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay.
We'll get back to that in a minute.
We'll get back to that.
No, I'll be there. I'm not going to do any panels. I'm just.
You're not going to do Hall H?
No, I don't think we are. I think we're just going to go to the convention. I mean, I've never been, so I want to go. So
I mean, I want to go eventually too, maybe, but like, I don't know.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, people are going to get it no matter what. But I would say, look,
like, it's not even the sickness. Like, I'll see videos, and it's like thousands of people. Tightly squished together, and it makes my skin crawl. Like, oh my god!
No, I understand. I understand. But I mean, I would say the variants are stronger now. But I mean, Lucasfilm had a whole convention with a celebration. They had nothing. I mean, I'm saying they didn't wear masks. There was no like requirements, and everybody got sick there. At least here, everyone is required to wear a mask the entire time, and everyone's required proof of vaccination or a COVID test. Whole lot of good that's going to do, but it's something.
Yeah. Look out for those Comic-Con exclusive posters.
Yeah. And the Funko Pops, which I'm sure they're already sold out. I think I saw they're already sold out on the website. On the website.
I thought about getting either you or Kyle this, but I'm like,
what?
I'm poor.
Yeah.
I recently went to Downtown Disney, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I have like 40 anniversary exclusive, products or whatever, and they had a Funko Pop of the Darth Vader original concept art by Ralph McQuarrie. I was like, that's pretty cool.
How much was it?
I was afraid to check because I checked the Funko Pop next to it, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
that's spicy meatball.
Yeah,
but it looked real cool, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I even care to. I mean, again, I think I've made it clear I'm not really excited for many of the things Marvel has in the pipeline. I'm not excited about them right now, so I don't know why I would do a like a panel of them. So, I mean, I mean, if like someone said, "Oh, you want to go in right now?" Okay, I'll go in right now. But I'm not gonna wait hours in line just to get into that room. Seems like a waste of time.
Yeah.
Besides, I get all the announcements in my phone anyway, so there's no need to do any of that. So, I'm gonna go, and then I'll report back with what I get. And if it's COVID, then I guess it's COVID. We'll see.
I went to Comic-Con and all I got was stupid ass COVID.
Yeah, well, I guess we will see about that. But anyway, you were that. Oh, I was presenting my theory of the case for what's going on with Marvel.
I need to give my theory.
Yep.
And my theory is it's the audience's fault.
Somebody had to say it. Thank you for saying it.
That's like my what do you call it? Like the intro sentence or main when you write an essay.
Your opening statement, I guess, if we're doing a debate.
I guess. It's the audience's fault, and this is why.
I think we're the only show on the internet that consistently like shits on the audience. I love us for that.
Because we don't care.
Yeah.
It's because all the shows that we watch are like, they make a living on that.
Yeah.
Like 2 people watch us, so it's fine.
Exactly.
Shout out to our 2 fans.
Sergio and David. And Peace Susan sometimes.
And Susan sometimes. Peace and love. So what I think it's the audience's fault. Because they started to view, and I think it happened around phase 2, not in phase 1. Because you look at those phase 1 Rotten Tomato scores, and they're iffy, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're up and down, 70s, 60s, around there. And the reason for that, I believe, is, well, one, nerd culture wasn't so dominant, so there wasn't a lot of, like, YouTube reviewers and stuff like that. But secondly,
it was in its infancy, I would say, at that stage.
But secondly, the people that did review them reviewed them as movies.
Yep.
As individual films that they paid a ticket to go see, and that this was the story they were seeing, and that's it, and that's, you know, fine. At phase 2, people stopped viewing these things as movies, and they started viewing them as episodes of a television series.
Yeah.
And the way you review an episode of a television series is very different than the way you review a film.
I think I point to what happened in Loki. Out of 6 episodes, there was 1 episode in the middle that everybody hated and all for the same reason. Because they felt as if their time was wasted and that it was filler and it didn't contribute to the whole story as a season.
Yeah.
And so when you get individual films that are not connected to the overall storyline, people are going to lash out for the most part.
Yeah. But so what happened was, what I believe, or I call it, is people basically graded these films on a curve.
And just to be clear, when you say people, the audience and critics alike. Let's not let the critics off the hook here.
No, everyone. Because I think I'm gonna laugh looking back at some of the reviews for some of these Marvel films.
Like Ant-Man and the Wasp.
And how embarrassing they are.
Yeah.
Because so much of it comes down to, I enjoy this world. I'd like to still see where it's going. I had a good time. 9 out of 10, right? and what they're really doing is they're not grading the film as a film.
No.
They're grading the MCU TV show.
Yep.
Because when I watch a TV show and I watch an episode and I'm like, yeah, I really dug that episode. It was pretty good. I see another one. Oh, that was I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I see a third one, you know. So then overall, I'm like, yeah, this is a good show. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm able to enjoy episode to episode to episode. It's like, yeah, overall, good show. But if you were to review individual episodes versus the whole thing, that's very, very different. And when you look at films, to me, the perfect example is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Almost every reviewer I saw was like, well, you know, I had fun, and it was a good palate cleanser after
any person that wrote that should, like, I feel, have their credentials questioned, because that only works if you see it directly after Infinity War. But a lot of these critics are like, there were a lot of movies that came out between Infinity War and Ant-Man and the Wasp. So that whole idea, I know what they were trying to say.
Oh yeah,
it's just a nonsensical notion. I feel.
But that's my point. That's why I dare any of these people to go back and watch the MCU films not in order. Mm-hmm. Pick a random one.
Exactly.
Don't remove all ideas of this interconnected universe or sequels or anything, and just watch the movie as a movie. Just watch Ant-Man and the Wasp as if imagine it's not connected to anything. As a movie, does it still work? Yeah. Are you still as enthused about it? And guess what? The answer is going to be fuck no.
No, it's not. And I'll give you another example of this. When Endgame came out and they saw how great, the stuff with Frigga was, and there was this sequence when they went back to the Dark World, the timeline of the Dark World. There were a lot of fans that came back and said, wow, who would have thought that the Dark World would have been relevant? That makes the movie better and worth watching. And I'm like, what? That movie wasn't good to begin with. Just because it was randomly quote unquote relevant doesn't make it a better movie.
Mm-mm. And then I think a lot of people go well, I wasn't bored for 2 hours. And because I'll be honest, I feel like a good chunk of Marvel movies were made just so that the audience isn't confused when that character appears in the next film, right?
I think you can make that exact same argument about a lot of these Disney Plus shows.
Yes, right? But at the time, people, I think, are willing to give that a pass and go well, I'm enjoying my time and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. Mm-hmm. So A+, all around good time, Marvel's killing it, right? But now what happened is I want to be real clear. Phase 4, including the TV shows, is not worse than any other phase. In fact, I think there's a few points where it's better. Right? But the issue is people are now being forced, and reviewers too, to no longer review these movies as TV episodes, and they're being forced to review them as movies. So for the first time in 2 phases, they're actually, again, reviewing them as movies. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, they're not that great. And it's interesting. If that's how you feel about these movies, I think you should go back and reevaluate how you reviewed the last 2 phases of movies.
And on that notion, as the years have gone by, I think post Endgame to where we are right now, these last 3 years, basically, I myself have been doing a lot of reevaluating of those movies. And, around the time that Endgame came out, I loved most of them. Mm-hmm. And now that we've up to 29 movies, I feel like maybe that number has gone down to 13, maybe 12 movies that I absolutely love, and the rest are kind of fall by the wayside.
It's about half. It's a little 50-50, right? And I mean that's kind of where I was at the time of Endgame. But that's because I reviewed them as movies and not TV episodes. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the best films you will absolutely be able to notice if you just review them on their own. I think, here's a great example. You did not watch your first Marvel film was The Avengers.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
loved it. And
you loved it. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's a good movie.
Because it worked as a movie.
As a movie. It works as
Here's another example. Movie. I've seen Infinity War and Endgame with people who had not seen a single Marvel movie. Yes, those people exist, and they loved their experience watching those films. I would say that's a sign they worked as individual films.
Same with Guardians too. They hadn't even seen the first Guardians. And so these movies can work. But if you find yourself watching a movie and going man, I don't care when it's not in the grand scheme of the MCU, then maybe the answer is you kind of don't care about that movie, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we're saying here. Because I'll say this, Black Widow, 100%, I think people would love that film if it came out after Civil War.
Immediately after Civil War, yeah.
People would love that film. They'll be oh, this is great, awesome. They would love it. Shang-Chi, I think most people actually do like Shang-Chi.
I think most everybody loves that movie. I don't.
Yeah.
I aggressively do not like that movie. I've seen it 3 or 4 times, and each time it has like soured. I think I rejiggered my list. I think I put it below Captain Marvel.
I don't know if I'd go that far. But it does play like a Phase 3 origin film. Like it's
By the way, that wasn't me saying Captain Marvel was good.
Yeah, no,
just to be clear.
But guess what? That one came out after what do you call it?
It came out right before Endgame.
And it made $1 billion. So there, and it got well reviewed. So there you go.
But why? Again, people always misinterpret this. Why did that movie make $1 billion, Captain Marvel? Because of that post-credit scene that teased her, and everyone assumed that she was going to be a major player in Endgame. Endgame happens first of all, and then the movie happens, and it's nothing at all to do with that storyline. Then immediately, like 2 months later, Endgame comes out, and Captain Marvel's in there for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, she's completely irrelevant to the film.
You got played, people. You got played.
In fact, and again, this is the issue again. I think she shot all her scenes for Endgame before there was even like a script or anything for the Captain Marvel film.
The Russos confirmed that in their audio commentary. Yes,
so the character
wasn't even established.
Like they had no idea who the character was, what her personality is, what her struggles, like anything. Nothing was refined.
Would have made a difference because the movie itself came out and they couldn't even figure out who that character was in her movie.
Yeah, because they figured, well, you just need to make a plain TV episode so you have something to stand up and cheer for when she shows up in the next movie, right? So you're getting burned at both ends of the stick here. So this is the issue with Phase 4, I think. And this is... I just explained why I think it was the audience's fault, and now this is why it's Marvel's fault.
Yep.
This was them trying to be more creative, I think, for sure. You look at WandaVision, you look at Loki,
Doctor
Strange,
Eternals,
and I even think they were trying with Shang-Chi.
Miss Marvel,
yeah, for sure, a lot. Moon Knight. They're trying to get more artistic, a little weird, a little more, try to be a little bit outside the box. But that's the problem. They were only a little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
Not nearly enough to win over people who are getting Marvel fatigue. And the people that don't have Marvel fatigue and they just want their TV show back, it's not enough of the TV connectivity to make them excited. So both sides.
It's the worst of both worlds.
It's the worst of both worlds. Because guess what? I loved WandaVision until they had to turn it into a Marvel.
Till the ending.
Loved Loki until they have to turn it into a Marvel. I loved a lot of Doctor Strange until they need to force in all that Marvel shit. And like so on and so forth. It's the same thing.
Miss Marvel.
Oh my God, Miss Marvel.
We'll get to that.
So this is where it's Kevin Feige's fault, where he's really fucking up. And because
Can I just say real quick, before you get to Kevin Feige fucking up, and I think you're going to say this too, but the thing is, the reality of what it is. Like, yes, they're dipping their toes and they're, to an extent, trying to do different things. But the problem is, they also feel the need for every single project to end up wrapping around to feeling a lot like all the other projects do. They continuously get in the way of themselves. Yes, they try to get a little creative with the directors they hire and having them have a visual stamp, and maybe one or two, like Chloe or Taika, gets more of a creative stamp on their stuff. But at the end of the day, it still has to be a bone to bear structure Marvel movie down to the dot, basically. Kevin Feige doesn't allow these movies to be anywhere near as creative as they should be. Phase 1 was the great, I think, shining example of like all these films having their own like visual stamp, having their own like style.
They felt the most like movies because when they were made, they were made like movies. Right?
Exactly.
The only connectivity really existed at like end stingers that would lead into the next one.
The Instingers are their only are a whole other problem here. The other problem, of course, there's too many projects to begin with. So many shows, so many movies. They're overextending themselves. I mean, the problems are adding on top of each other. Go ahead.
That was my next one.
By the way, you called this. I want to give you credit. You called this back in 2019.
Insert the audio.
Should I? Maybe I should. I could insert the audio, but I mean, I can find the clip. I'm sure I have it on my phone here. I'll play it right now. But the problem, I don't want to edit it in. It's too much work.
That's why I told you.
The thing is this. You called it back in 2019, that wrap-up podcast where we discussed that Hall H of Comic-Con.
That was their last Comic-Con, yeah.
Literally, yeah, 3 years ago. That was the last one. And the last one Marvel was there. You said with the announcements of these Disney Plus series that they would run the risk of overextending themselves and everything would suffer, basically was the gist of what you said. Because they weren't taking the existing Marvel TV division. They were firing those people. Like, they got rid of Jeff Loeb and all that was shuttered. And they took the Marvel Studios team and then just, took on all those projects themselves.
Yeah. There used to be about a Marvel movie, maybe 2, if you're lucky, a year. And then they quickly moved into 3 a year. And people were like, whoa. Put your
from
gas on the brakes.
From 2013 to 2016, there were 2 Marvel movies a year. Then 2017 with Homecoming, Ragnarok, and Guardians 2, there were 3. And then we came back after the first year of lockdown with 2021 with 4 movies on top of 5 TV shows on Disney Plus.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane how much they threw out there. And you know what? It shows.
Yeah. In a number of ways.
In a number of ways. Like we talked about the writing, how they can't even have a finished script or idea of what the film is supposed to be. Till the point where they're still editing it and still trying to figure out what the movie's supposed to be, which hurts the film story-wise, character-wise, visually, especially. There's already a problem with VFX in Hollywood because they're treated like freaking cattle because they're not unionized, so they treat them real shitty.
But Marvel Studios particularly, though.
Marvel Studios, yes, they are the worst offenders because they can be. And also, they're constantly making last-minute changes because, like you said, there's too many projects and they're going back and forth. And
they changed their mind. Literally, Kevin Feige changes his mind on everything. He changes his mind on what the story plot point would be. He changes his mind on how the special effect would look like. He changes his mind on what the location is. One of the biggest issues, and we've discussed this at length of the VFX, is that they shoot everything
in a parking lot.
Well, yes, that to begin with is just not good, but it's done with the intent that they know they're going to change their mind 20 times, and they rotoscope everything. And Kyle and I, when we saw Thor: Love and Thunder again, we looked at the credits section where it said roto artists. For that movie, they had 8 people. Only 8 people. About a rotoscoping is this thing where you basically cut out the actors of wherever they filmed, and you put you put them on top of a different background, and you know it when you see it in these movies. And I think all of these films, quite frankly, maybe Eternals was the exception. I think all of them have a scene in the movie where you can tell where it looks glossy in the background. Because they're not actually there. They rotoscope those artists. I mean, those artists rotoscope those actors out of where they originally filmed that location and put them differently. In my mind, that's no different than what George Lucas did when the editing of The Phantom Menace, when he would just intentionally fuck with the editing. Like, he took actors from different cuts, from different and then just mashed them all together, and it comes off as completely fake and unnatural, and you can tell that comes across in the filmmaking. That's just one aspect in that the filmmaking craft per se of this movie studio has so devolved. It's gotten to a point where it is embarrassing. Yeah,
and there's a like you completely summarized right now. That's the reason why it has devolved. It's because look at the Batman, right? Even if you're not crazy about the Batman, What happened was you had a director with the vision. He came in, he wrote a script. He planned out, because he had this script, because he had this roadmap he had the full idea of the movie he was making. He was able to be like, okay, we can film on location here. We can use green screen here. We can even use stuff like the volume here. But because we know exactly what we're filming, we can take the time to make it look as realistic as possible. And
by the way, the volume takes months to prepare. Not weeks, not days. That technology that was first ushered in through The Mandalorian and was used in the Batman and Thor: Love and Thunder. And here comes the divide. In the Batman, they had artists that knew they couldn't just rely on the lighting from those LED screens, and that they knew that they needed months to prepare for, what it all is going to look like. Marvel, again, they can't do that because they changed their minds of what the background or what the location is even going to be. So it's going to come off as shoddy at best.
I could tell when they were using the volume in the Thor trailer. I watched the Batman like 3 times before ever finding out that they used it. And even then, there was some scenarios where I was shocked that they had used it. Did you know they used it at the very end, at the goodbye, when he said goodbye to Catwoman?
No.
Like literally, when Batman's on his bike too. Like they have it like
I was stunned
running in the back.
I was stunned when I realized that the volume was even used at all. That it was used for the wonderful location of the skyscraper wherever they're at, and they meet up in that wonderful skyline of Gotham. I had no idea.
Yeah, zero idea until they until I saw some behind the scenes. I was like, whoa, no way.
Yeah.
So it's like this technology can be incredible and used well, but when you make a movie, you have to plan for it. And if you look at any genuinely great blockbuster made in the last few years, you don't even have to go back that far, like Dune and stuff like that. Which, what really, really helps is if you have a script, you plan out specifically for that script, which allows you like, hey, I can build sets here. Or, hey, I can give my CG artists a lot more time to work on this specific shot because we did it once and that was it. We have it locked. So now they have months to work on it instead of changing what that shot is supposed to be like 3 times over the course of like 8 months.
Yeah, as a brief aside, you mentioned earlier how the horrible conditions the VFX artists in this industry are in. Just another example. The Academy Award nominated movie for its visual effects, Spider-Man No Way Home, hilariously enough, released in theaters with unfinished effects. There were even weeks after it was released, artists were still working on perfecting those VFX. The Duffer Brothers, on the day that part 2 of the latest season of Stranger Things submitted in final VFX shots the day of, that those episodes would drop at midnight. These are horrible conditions.
Horrible.
And it is embarrassing for like the entire industry to collectively just like shrug like, okay, I guess it's fine. We'll just make it to the release date, make it look good enough, and then after you can finish and make it look whatever.
Yeah. The thing is, it's bad across the board. Like this is not at all like a Marvel thing. No. It's just that Marvel's the absolute worst. So it's very noticeable on their films. Because again, I haven't finished Stranger Things, but from what I have seen, effects look very good.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal. Phenomenal effects.
And I bet you it's because the Duffer Brothers had a script, they had it locked in. So even though they unfortunately, fucking driven like slaves, working day and night overtime to finish the effects and make them look as good as possible, they were probably given, I don't know, like I said, 8 months to on one scene where it didn't change, like it was handed to them and then they just worked on that and then that was it. Whereas with Marvel, in the span of that 8 months, they give it to them, okay, work on this. Couple months go by, never mind, we're gonna change it to a different location, so trash everything you've worked on and now change it to this. Okay, a few weeks later, never mind, we actually want to change it to more like this. So it's like, of course it's gonna look terrible, right? So I mean, the real answer to the effects issue is for VFX artists to unionize. I mean, I think that's the real answer. But it's so difficult because it's a job that can be done overseas.
And it's also so difficult that we live in a civilization, particularly in a neoliberal world order in which unionization and unions are so vilified. And we have like Lex Luthor types like Elon Musk and Mr. Bezos from Amazon that spend a high amount of their fortune to crush workers' rights and their own employees. And Starbucks, I should also mention Howard Schultz, of course. Starbucks, just closing unionized stores left and right out of spite. And of course, we have no antitrust laws, and it's a fucked situation all around. It's really hard for that particular industry to improve, where across the board, across all industries, unions are just so vilified.
Yeah.
And crushed at and even the party that claims to be on their side isn't really, because you have the neoliberal Democratic Party that is on the side of their donors, not, workers' rights and unions.
100% true.
And again, if we had antitrust laws, we wouldn't even be talking about mutants right now with being in the MCU.
Because they would not own them. Disney wouldn't own Fox, period.
Nope.
No, none of that. Maybe they wouldn't own Marvel because they already had Star Wars. You would maybe see shit like that. Oh, for damn sure, a lot of these characters would be public domain by now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Because guess what? Mickey Mouse's public domain is coming up.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see them, with the help of both Republicans and Democrats, push through a law that sets back public domain for like another 200 years or some shit.
Right. When we're all dead.
Yeah. So the last bit that I think Marvel is messing up with is the only part that they had left as far as like keeping this together, which is their Stinger connectivity.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because that's a big thing, right? The Stingers is kind of what made Marvel. And the issue is, and I think I've talked to you about this, is that in the past, the Stinger for one movie would lead directly into the next movie. So it really helps you go like, okay, yes, I'm pumped for the next one, and now I'll show up for the next one, and yes, I'm pumped for the next one, so I'm going to show up for the next one. Because as you saw with Thor, Iron Man 2 had a stinger for Thor, which led directly into directly into Thor. What am I saying? And it's like, okay, sweet, awesome, cool, like boom.
The Winter Soldier had a stinger that led directly to Age of Ultron.
Yes, right. It's very, very direct. It's something that audiences can follow. Quick, clean, good. The stingers now, you need like to take notes. Unless you have like a massive whiteboard of like this goes here, that goes there, this over here, this goes here. The stingers mean nothing to you now.
I'll tell you this right now. Spoilers for Thor: Love and Thunder. You should know this, so listening for this review, but here we are. We'll get to the review, I'm sure, in a minute.
Yeah.
Brett Goldstein, who I love. I love Brett Goldstein so much, and I love his work on Ted Lasso. He's also a writer-producer. I know of you were on the show.
Oh,
in addition
really?
to he actually, it was a whole story of like him like being encouraged to like, read for the part of Roy Kent. That's a whole thing.
Oh, so he was a writer first.
Yeah.
And then he was encouraged to... Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
And he's already won his Emmy for that role from, I think, last year from Ted Lasso. He's very good. He's one of the best parts of that show. And he was cast basically as Hercules. It was revealed in the post-credit scene for Thor: Love and Thunder, and it is perfect casting, and it sets up a movie that I want to see right now. The problem is, as we could have guessed, and he's already confirmed it, he has no fucking clue if he'll ever come back. And he even said, and I quote, "Maybe that's all I did. Maybe that was it." And it's crazy because, like, well, if we take him at his word and that's all that it is that'll come of it, what was the point? Why? Like, why they keep promising things that both we do not know when they're gonna come. If they come, that's the other part. Eternals had like stingers that I guess we'll never see. And I think the same can be said for what happens here if there even is a Thor 5.
Well, this started in like phase 3, right?
Oh, yeah.
My favorite example is Doctor Strange. It ends with, what's his name being like...
Thor.
Doctor Strange.
No, well, aren't there 2 stingers? There is a stinger for Doctor Strange where he's having a beer with Thor.
Well, that leads directly into Thor 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's supposed to be.
That was a whole year later. That was a whole year later, though. There were a couple of movies in between.
Sure. But I mean, that's kind of okay. What I'm talking about with
Mordo.
Doctor Strange 2 is Mordo. Where it's like he's very much teased to be the main villain of a sequel in which he's going around hunting sorcerers. And it's like, oh, awesome, cool. I'm excited for this. Like half a decade later, we get a sequel and there was zero follow-up to that storyline that was teased whatsoever. Zero, zip, nada, nothing. And it's like, there are several examples of that. Of teasers that, you know, this character, this idea is teased only to follow up with it like 5-6 years later, and it not be anything like it was teased to be. Basically be nothing, or just never followed up. Spider-Man Homecoming. At the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, we were teased with the Scorpion as a main villain. That character has not returned in any... 2 movies later, not returned in any capacity, any way, shape, or form. What was the point of that tease? Like, so now I'm at a point where it's like, well, I don't even know. Like that did get me excited. I liked that tease at the end, but I don't know if I should even care.
Yeah, that sours it.
Because especially when you look at all the ridiculous threads that have been left in Phase 3, how it's like, okay, the end of Black Widow, the tease led into the Hawkeye Disney Plus show. WandaVision led into Doctor Strange 2. Eternals.
Also, I guess the Marvels or Secret Invasion. There was one with Monica Rambeau.
Oh yeah,
with
I
a
guess
scroll.
It leads into maybe the Marvels or maybe Secret Invasion. The end of Shang-Chi maybe leads into Shang-Chi 2 with like the 10 rings and his sister and da-da-da-da-da. Who knows? But by the time we even get a Shang-Chi 2, who even knows if his sister and the 10 rings will be in it? Because maybe they've decided he needs to have a team-up movie with one of our new characters, which they keep doing.
They very well, by the way, this weekend at Comic-Con could announce a 10 Rings Disney Plus series. I think that's one of the rumors I read about a year ago.
Yeah.
So there's that. And
you know what? I would even argue that the stinger for the end of Thor 2, where Loki is sitting on the throne of Asgard... That kind of teases you for like a big thing with him controlling Asgard, and then by the time you get to Ragnarok, it's like a big.
And that
joke.
was toward the end of the movie. It's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
nothing. I think the biggest example, you may have already mentioned it, but Spider-Man: Homecoming, Aunt May.
Yes.
What a fucking waste.
Yes, that whole thing of like what the, and you're like, oh wow, I can't wait to explore the relationship of this in the next film.
Far From Home did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Far From Home did the same thing, and then No Way Home did spent 5 minutes wrapping that up and going to a different movie they wanted its own.
Yes, Far From Home teased an entirely different movie than No Way Home was. But what happened was, like we said, the plans changed. Mm-hmm. So what they had to do was wrap up that movie that they had set up in the first act, maybe even faster than the first act, and then immediately pivot to a different kind of movie that this is now the movie they want to make. So it's like, why should I get excited for these teasers anymore if they're either
It's already been proven that most of them don't amount to anything.
They won't amount to anything, right?
Yeah.
If I see, for me, like the Iron Man 2 teaser, I see a hammer, I think, oh, Thor movie, next movie's Thor, yes, fun, cool, awesome. Or even that Captain America Winter Soldier teaser where it's like, ooh, the Maximoff twins, interesting. Mm-hmm. Boom, leads directly into Avengers 2. It works so well. Whereas here, Eternals maybe leads into like
Blade? Maybe.
Or Midnight Suns.
You know, hilariously enough, I saw John Campea predict that they would announce Eternals 2 at Comic-Con. There's no way that's happening. Is there?
He's smoking something.
I mean, he's also saying Henry Cavill will be brought back for the DC universe.
A lot of people. I saw that rumor running rampant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
don't buy it.
I wouldn't trust it.
No.
But if it happens, that'll be interesting.
I mean, if Eternals 2 happens, I'd be there, but I doubt it, considering how reviled it is. Although, I mean, who knows? I mean, Kevin Feige reportedly was a big fan of the movie, but we'll see.
We'll see. But, like, yeah, there's so many of these teasers just kind of lead nowhere. And it's like, well, why should I be excited about this? Like, the end of Doctor Strange 2, what was that teaser?
Clea? Yeah.
It's like, well, why should I be excited about Clea? Because you teased a Mordo villain last Doctor Strange movie and
did nothing with him in this movie.
I did not get that. Because guess what?
You lied
the
to me,
plans
basically.
changed, and you needed it to be about multiverses, and you needed to include Scarlet Witch in it. And it's like, if I know that the plans are going to change on such a dime, then why should I be excited about your stingers? Because they won't mean anything. They're broken promises.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the issues that a lot of us having with Wanda come from this as well, because of, you know, plans changing at the last minute possible.
Yes.
Between WandaVision and the Multiverse of Madness.
The stinger is her kids yelling for help.
Yeah, that's right. I had forgotten that too. That was a lie as well.
That was a lie.
Oh my god. Wow. That's
like,
awful.
Yeah. And it's just, White Vision. When's he gonna show up? I don't know. I
forgot he existed.
5 years.
Also, what was that whole thing with, like, it stands to reason we'll see each other again? And then in Multiverse of Madness, conspicuously enough, she mentions him one time. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem to care anymore about Vision.
He'll come back 7 films from now in 5 years. Don't worry about it.
I mean, let's look at, like, the span between films. Like, we just spoke to Thor: Love and Thunder. Mm-hmm. This came out 5 whole years, half a decade after Thor Ragnarok. I mean, this basically acts like a Thor 2, you know, a sequel to, like, Taika's original Thor. But 5 years, like, so by that, you know, logic, considering also how busy, you know, Taika has become with a whole many different TV and movie projects, are we to expect the next Thor film, if there is one, in 2027? A whole 10 years after Ragnarok was released? That's insane.
I'm here waiting for Guardians 3.
And we'll get it in 2023, correct? That's a whole 9 years after the original film.
Mm-hmm. 9.
9 freaking years. That's... There's just too many characters. There's too many storylines up in the balance that we'll never know when we'll get back to, and there's just too many shows. There's too many movies to begin with. Everything is just beginning to suffer.
Everything is crumbling. Everything is breaking under the weight. But that being said, for everything negative that me and you just said, the second that Kevin Feige announces an X-Men movie and Fantastic Four, everyone will forget.
Yep.
That'll be Yep. All he needs to do is announce the next Wolverine, and that it's over. Yeah.
I would argue that for many people, those, shall we say, reservations have already been swept under the rug, because all it took was a reveal at the end of Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
That's all it took. Because then that's like, oh, I see that. Now I see where you're going, even though you don't really see.
No, you
the
don't
show didn't
see.
do a good enough job explaining what the fuck that was in the first place.
It was unbelievably sloppy. I think it's the sloppiest.
I would say sloppy as being that's a very charitable term to associate that. I think it's messy. Let's be real. It's messy. And again, we'll get to that in a minute. But, you know, for all the negativity, You and I are still, for the most part, Marvel bitches. I mean, we still love this universe. We still love these characters. We still love, love comic books. We still love superhero movies. I'm
passionate about this is because I care.
Exactly, right? And I still say I have 12 or 13 movies that I love. And
That's a fuck ton of movies.
That is a lot of movies. And I think I owe it to the audience to be very upfront with like what those movies are. Okay. So I'm just saying the movies that I love: Winter Soldier, Endgame, Volume 2 of Guardians, the original Guardians, First Avenger, Infinity War, Civil War, Eternals, the First Avengers, Iron Man, spoiler, Love and Thunder, and Iron Man 3. And then I like a few more of them. But that's a pretty good ratio, I would say. On the flip side, though, there are quite a number I do not give a fuck about. Yeah, ratio. That's a whole term. But I love this universe, and I also I love a number of the TV shows. I mean, of course, I've raved for years on end about S.H.I.E.L.D. There's also Daredevil, Jessica Jones. I know it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't, and we'll get to that. Daredevil, Jessica Jones, the first season of Luke Cage. I really enjoyed Moon Knight, but I loved WandaVision and mostly Miss Marvel. So there's a lot of stuff, for the most part, that still brings me back. But I guess the frustration, despite all the love, the frustration grows year after year, because with WandaVision, with Miss Marvel, with Eternals, there are inherent problems in those things that prevent them from being better, and they all tie back to Kevin Feige. And I'm sick and tired of Kevin Feige ruining things that I love. Because I think that they're so close to being great, but they just barely miss it because of him.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree.
That's what it is. So let's, back to the positivity. Let's start off with the good. Thor: Love and Thunder, which I would say, or did you want to go to the other one?
I wanted to say which ones I liked.
Oh, yes, go ahead. I forgot you're here too. That's right.
I know you forget a lot.
Anyway, go ahead.
My favorite are Guardians Volume 2, the original Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man, First Avenger, Captain America, Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Iron Man 3, Civil War, and this is where you would not like, but WandaVision.
What do you mean? I love WandaVision.
I know, but I included it on the list with films.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man.
But if it wasn't there, you know what would be there? Doctor Strange.
That's very interesting. I also like Ragnarok.
Oh, Doctor Strange 2. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not the original one. That's why. No, I knew what you meant.
I know, but it very much made it seem like I meant the first one.
I also like Ragnarok, Age of Ultron, and Thor, and I'll put Multiverse of Madness as in the like column, but really only from a visual standpoint and because of Elizabeth Olsen's amazing performance, and the slasher stuff was beautifully horrific.
I feel like it's very rewatchable.
It is, actually.
I think there's just a lot of fun stuff, and it's very fast paced.
Again, it's just brought down because I don't care ultimately about Stephen Strange.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's where I'm at. The rest I have like really mixed feelings on. 2 negative feelings. But that's me. But yeah, I mean, take into consideration, of course, for those who are listening, that we named some films at the top that are not quite so talked about. And I wanted to say this about Thor: Love and Thunder before we get to the movie itself. And what this movie reminds me of. It reminds me of 2 movies in this genre of comic books that I really adore, but everyone else, when they came out, just kind of shrugged and moved on, and they never are ever brought up. And it kind of has a similar tone to them. And the 2 films I speak of, again, films that I adore, I mean, I think some of my favorite movies of all time, period. Deadpool 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Both of those films have a similar story in that when they were released, people were like, oh, it's a comedy. And I guess it's a thing. But there's not much to discuss here. And then they just move on with their lives. And now you hear no one bring up those movies. They're never talked about.
Yep. Well, because Guardians 2, not as harshly, and I think not as harshly again, because it was during the TV era, it got the Thor Love and Thunder treatment, which is just too much. It's too much. It's a James Gunn overload. But I think at the time, again, people were grading it on that curve, so it's like, well, it's too much, but you know, I'm still enjoying the TV show, so A, B, whatever. But now they're like, I don't know where the fuck this TV show's going with Thor: Love and Thunder, so they're like fucking C-.
I've actually gathered a couple of reviews that summarize the harshness that this movie is receiving. May I go ahead and read them?
Of course.
All right, so Brendan Hodges. Thor: Love and Thunder is one of the messiest and most ill-conceived movies I've seen in years. It's a cosmic circus of try-hard cringe that bizarrely tries to connect heavy themes about death, God, and love to non-stop pubescent humor and series-low visuals. I wished I liked this. I keep seeing takes suggesting Ragnarok and Love and Thunder are doing the same things, but they really aren't. Ragnarok is taking the piss out of the superhero myth front to back, while Love and Thunder is actually trying to sincerely move you. It doesn't work. Real quick, I rewatched Ragnarok not once, but twice before Love and Thunder. And I have to say, once again, you were right, Peter. I remember loving that movie when it came out and loving it, completely and not really having any of the issues you had. But I've seen it again, and I gotta say, wasn't terribly impressed. And I've really come back around to all the points you were making. When it's a Planet Hulk movie, when it's in Sakaar, I dig it. When it cuts back to Asgard and everything with Hela, I do not care. And it causes me to pick up my phone and just stop paying attention. And I feel, for all the talk that's being had about this Love and Thunder being like just a mess and tonally inconsistent, I would say Ragnarok has two films that consistently collide against one another. Pretty apparently.
I was so surprised when I saw this. Do you know what Ragnarok's rating on Letterboxd is?
No.
3.9.
Out of 5?
Well, the highest is. You don't look at the ratings?
No,
right?
Not really.
Okay. It's like the star rating. I think the highest rated star rated movie is actually what do you call it? Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
And it's like 4.4 or 4.5.
Really?
And just to give you like
and Ragnarok is that close to that?
3.9, and Thor Love and Thunder is 3.2. If you regularly look at the scores, it's like 1 out of 5 stars basically. So
also, we should mention Thor: Love and Thunder received a B+ cinema score from audiences,
which is considered bad for blockbusters.
It's considered bad for blockbusters, and considering its cinema score, and I think it's the third film in Phase 4 that has received a grade in the B range. And as far as Rotten Tomatoes is concerned, which is a metric I don't really consider to be all that good in essence because people misinterpret it, but it has a low 70 I think score, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, but with Ragnarok, I still like Ragnarok, but I feel I'm significantly more detached from it and care less about anything going on in it, quite frankly, than I used to. Brendan continues, the fundamental problem with Love and Thunder is that there's just not a story. It's a confetti cannon of bad sketches, mistaking naughty words, dumb mayhem, and fuzzy CGI backgrounds for character, plot, and wit. I like Ragnarok, but Taika doubled down on his worst impulses. Brandon Stroessing. I know when people say shit like this, the response is always, you gotta see more movies. And I know everyone is sick of MCU complaining, so I'll be brief. Thor Love and Thunder is, without exaggeration, genuinely one of the worst movies I've seen in well over a decade. Want to expand, I know, right? Want to expand a bit to say why TT is either an awful filmmaker or just doesn't care. Each frame is put together with zero sense of space, blocking, or depth. Your eye has nothing to center itself. Each take feels like the first and only. The entire film feels like the last day of senior year where everything is going through the motions. Wow. It's one of the worst movies for me because of all the movies I've seen that cost so fucking much. This one shows zero evidence of it. It's almost insulting at this point. Jezebel Ray says, I'm not happy to report that I have finally seen Love and Thunder, and I can confidently say it is an unmitigated disaster. It is all the problems and weaknesses of the entire MCU franchise wrapped into one rushed, tonally inconsistent, visually atrocious monstrosity. Wow, people are really digging in here. Richard Newby calls it a collection of deleted scenes, trite conveniences, lame jokes, half-written arcs, underutilized characters, bound together by simply inexcusable use of green screen and out-of-focus backgrounds. My least favorite MCU project. Mauricio Brown-Table, oh my god, that was such a dog shit movie. Vanity Fair's headline, Taika Waititi's signature style finds its limits in Love and Thunder, a feast of random indulgences, so ceaseless it verges on nihilism. And then, of course, we have Mark Kermode, who literally tore into this movie like I've never seen before.
The CGI is unspeakably poor. The whole thing looked like it would probably improve from motion smoothing. At times I was reminded, there was an article in Cinefantastique magazine back in 1974-75 that described Flesh Gordon, the soft porn remake of Flash Gordon, as the best mounted turd we have ever seen. And I thought that bits of Thor Love and Thunder looked like a rubbish CG remake of those bits from Flesh Gordon. Now, I thought it was absolute balderdash, and I really sat there thinking, I've had enough of this now. This is so tired and so... If you're gonna do it, do it. Don't just do 2 hours of sarky, oh no, we're making a superhero movie, but we're being funny about it. It just stop. I thought it was absolute rubbish.
Well, tell me how you really feel, man. Yeah, so literally that's really been most of the people, I would say, walking out of this movie. At least that's the critic consensus, I would say. Overwhelmingly, that's where I would say that's where it's leading. And for those longtime listeners out there, I think it shouldn't surprise you that we would find ourselves once again cutting against the side of the mainstream. Because from what I have been told, Kyle, Alexis Moreno, and our own David Francisco really, really loved this movie and do not understand completely what the problem seems to be. They seem to have the ball, and I'm just going to tell you right now, Peter and I are exactly in that camp. It's weird because sometimes we rarely agree completely on a movie, but it seems like we've come together against the whole world once again to proclaim, at least in my humble opinion, that this movie is, in fact, quite good. And far from the garbage these people make it out to be. Like, all of these things people are saying about, this movie, I would understand it if it was, like, connected to Ant-Man and the Womp Womp. But this movie, I'm going to say flat out, I think people are just being ridiculous, and I think it's almost a replay of Eternals where they refuse to engage with what's actually in the text of the film and are using this as an excuse to attack Marvel at large. Honestly, for some critics, I would say they have a personal axe to grind, and it's coming across quite clear, with Marvel Studios. For some understandable reasons, quite frank. I mean, sure. But at the same time, I have to say I'm quite disappointed with a number of people who have attacked this movie, because usually I find them to be really reliable voices in a lot of film talk. I really do. But and look, I understand that the craft of the first two Thor films definitely speaks for itself. And yes, the craft has obviously devolved as we've come all the way to Love and Thunder. But craft alone does not make a good movie. Look, the craft in Doctor Strange spoke for itself in terms of the filmmaking, but again, I didn't care about the character. And I feel like, and I did rewatch all of the Thor films. I didn't care so much about Thor as a character from those 2 Thor movies. I did like him more in the first one. I do think overall the first Thor is a good movie. Yeah. I don't think the second one is. But it was aimless and meandering, and I feel Taika gave this character a point of direction. And evidently people were on board until this movie happened. So quite a curious situation that we are with this movie. But I've seen it 3 times, and I love it. So go figure. There we go. That's my review. No, well, I mean, we're going to get into more, obviously, with the movie, but I have to say, I really like the film to love it for so many reasons that I think cut against what these people are saying. Yeah. I think the humor is some of the most wittiest I think the MCU has featured. I think it's textbook Taika. I happen to vibe with his humor, and I think it works. And I very vehemently disagree with the notion that this is like nihilistic and is insincere. Far from it. I think is maybe the most sincere film Marvel has had since Guardians 2, easily. I love Hemsworth. I love this cast. My only issues, I think, well, maybe some nitpicks, but the overall issues I would say with this film is it's not long enough. We need more sequences with 2 particular characters, that being Christian Bale's Gore and Natalie Portman's Mighty Thor as Jane Foster. And yeah, the pacing feels a little off the first time, but then I got used to it the couple of, second and third time that I see it. So that's all I can offer you right now. But on the whole, I think this is one of my, no, I don't think. I know on the whole immediately, it is already one of my favorite Marvel movies in the MCU because Thor: Love and Thunder, in my humble opinion, is everything I want out of these movies. And it is such a bonus that this is one of the few things, maybe the only thing, that didn't have a forced connection to the universe at large. And it shows, baby. It shows.
The only thing you could maybe say is the Guardians, but
there's nothing.
It works well, I think.
It works so well. It's perfectly integrated, and it's not. They're not there to tease their own thing.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. It was so interesting because I kind of reminds me a little bit of The Last Jedi.
But it reminds me of Guardians 2 in a way, though. Guardians 2 got some harsh reactions,
I think. But it was just along those lines of. By the way, I don't like Thor: Love and Thunder nearly as much as Guardians 2 or The Last Jedi, but it is similar in that I saw a lot of really negative reviews and just trashing it, and I go well, oh well, okay, let's just go see it. I wasn't and I wasn't no, fuck you, this movie's gonna be. It wasn't even like that. It's just okay,
here we go again.
Here we go, And then I saw it and I was like, I think it's funny.
Yeah, I think it's really funny in moments.
I think it
not everything works.
Yeah,
as far
for
as
sure. But I don't think any Marvel movie has ever had.
No. And again, that's one of the things that is so, in my view, outrageous. It's you're gonna go so hard at this movie for humor and for some of the things not working for you, but you guys say nothing about all the other every other Marvel movie that has
there's a
lines,
lot of,
one-liners that are just bad. No one really went hard after Scooby-Doo this crap or say
they
please.
They kind of did, but
but
so much
only when they were featured in the trailer. No one said shit after they saw the movie because of the whole thing that happened.
Well, because you saw the Green Goblin and
literally,
and Spider-Man. Yeah. But no, I felt myself watching it. I was like I don't know, guys, I find this pretty funny throughout, and then it's they're ruining the emotional parts with humor, and I do agree that the emotional parts can be better, but I don't think they're terrible, and I don't think the humor ever comes in and ruin. I can't think of a single emotional moment where humor comes in and ruins it.
You know what? Where I can't think of that happening? Ragnarok.
Yes, that's why it's so weird, right? Because I saw a lot of. Like you said, a lot of reviews really attacking this, but those same people are listen, I love Ragnarok. I adore Ragnarok. Ragnarok's one of the best films ever. But this
Chrissy Lemire, who I think is a great critic from Breakfast All Day, used to be on What the Flick, called Ragnarok tonally consistent or cohesive. And I'm
I disagree.
No.
Maybe I don't understand tone then, because apparently the world disagrees, but I feel like Love and Thunder was much more tonally consistent than
Like, there is no
Ragnarok.
moment in Love and Thunder that compares to in Ragnarok, where literally all the Asgardian people are watching their planet be destroyed, and they're emotional, but then, like, the main point of that is for Korg to get a joke in.
Yeah, a joke as it blows up, right? And it's like, is that funny? Yeah, it was funny. But it's like, if you want to talk about tonal inconsistencies, right? Like, this is literally Armageddon, and a lot of it is sort of played for a joke, and like a lot of people are dying, and a lot of like humor is laced throughout it. Like, I don't know. Like if you really want to talk about like tonal issues, I'm not saying it's terrible with its tonal issues, but I definitely had more issues with Ragnarok than I did here.
Well, I noticed them in Ragnarok. I don't detect them in Love and Thunder in the least.
No. Like I said, my issues just lie more with the emotional moments that are there. I would have liked to have a little bit more time with them, and a little bit more here and there with the characters. But it wasn't like, whoa, like I just had tonal whiplash. Like, this is crazy. I never had a moment, and I have had moments like that in Marvel movies where it's like, fuck, can't we just have one sincere moment? But here, I thought there was plenty of sincere moments that were not overshadowed by any sort of humor that came in to like overpower
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So that part was just kind of like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I guess I'm seeing things differently than most people. Like I said, the humor worked, that stuff worked. I thought there was a nice little story for Thor.
Yeah.
and a little journey.
Well, can we just say, like, as like a minimum, this movie had a story that was laser focused on characters, on arcs, and themes. Everything in the film, I'd say, is tied in thematically for the most part, and it has a great message. It's got something to say here too, and I think all those things I mentioned, unfortunately, are not characteristics of most Marvel films these days.
No.
And I think because it has those things, and I think for the most part it works, that in and of itself is a win. And it's so weird that this is the one that's getting trashed on when it's so clearly there in the text.
And there are some things that people are trashing on it for that it's like, I don't disagree, but this is hardly the first Marvel film to have this offense, right?
This is like, hardly the one to single out, basically.
Yeah, like when they talk about like the bad CGI, it's like, I mean...
Have you not been paying attention to all of them?
Yeah, like I don't disagree, but like the thing of it's like, well, it feels like it's like made in the editing room or not made in the editing room, but it's like what was it, like a collection of deleted scenes sort of put together.
Yeah, some people were saying that. Yeah,
and it's like, for sure, I kind of get that feeling because it was written on the go basically.
But then again, so are all of them.
All of them are, and I kind of notice it much more in other Marvel films where it's like, well, this doesn't make sense here, there, here. And then again with the visuals, it's like, yeah, for sure, a lot of shoddy visual VFX effects. But I do think Taika, in moments, tries to do visually fun and colorful things,
which is more than we can say for a lot of the. With all due respect, I don't mean to trash filmmakers here, but one of the other problems that Marvel has is because they want to maintain ultimate control, they very rarely hire directors with vision. Phase 4 has been kind of the exception, but still, on the whole, they have brought in people who were only known for like maybe one or two small indie films and then get thrown in immediately to a big movie. And I think the best example of that is Creston, who directed Shang-Chi, which, yes, the stunt work and the choreography is something to take note of. On the whole, it lacks a visualistic style. Because of that. And I think because it's Creston directing it, it suffers from, for a whole host of other reasons. But that's like Marvel's MO.
I'll give you an example. Like in Shang-Chi, I thought there was this really visually cool fight when it was with the Mandarin and
Wenwu and his mom, Shang-Chi's mom.
But like that's kind of it. Right?
Basically.
And then it's the same thing with Spider-Man Far From Home. No, Far From Home.
Oh, okay.
When you have that, what do you call it? Mysterio scene.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, this is really neat. But this is it. Like, this is the only. Everything else looks like a car commercial. With Thor: Love and Thunder, for sure. There was definitely a lot of moments where it's like, yeah, this feels like a car commercial. Yeah. But there was a lot more moments peppered out where it's like, okay, this is like that Wenwu fight scene. This is like that, what do you call it? That Mysterio scene, right? Right. It didn't just have one of those and then the rest looks like a car commercial. It had several of those peppered throughout.
Yeah, so a visual imprint that I can remember and like, oh yeah, this is from this movie. Yeah, the whole Shadow Realm thing.
That's neat.
Yep, absolutely.
And yeah, he tries to do, I don't know, he tries to do stuff with like visually make cool poses.
Yeah.
So just little things here. Again, it's not amazing, right? But it's tough because it's like I can't disagree when people go like, well, look, it looks like shit and it's a car commercial and and it looks like this and that, and it's like right. I can't entirely disagree, but also this is the film that's like I feel like it's trying more than any other recent Marvel movie except for Doctor Strange 2. Yeah. So it's just kind of like a weird one to single out. It's like people didn't go this hard on like Black Widow. People definitely didn't go this hard on Shang-Chi, and one of my issues with Shang-Chi is like that third act was just like ugly. It's like that.
It was pitiful.
That final fight was like
it was ugly, and guess what? It got nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah,
for visual effects, particularly, which is like absurd to say the least.
Well, like Black Panther, like no one ever said anything about Black Panther, and Black Panther looked god awful, like terrible.
I think that's one of the worst ones.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the worst ones where it's not just like, small scenes where people are talking in front of a green screen. No, that's the one where like the third act for them on the whole, I think, suffered increasingly because of the VFX.
That final fight between him and Killmonger.
Wow.
It looks like I don't know, like something someone would mock up on YouTube,
Yeah.
Right.
It's not great.
So it's like people going in on the film for it's like, well, should have been better visually, story-wise, you should have had stuff. I can't disagree because all of that is for sure true, but I also feel like this is one of the movies that, especially in recent memory of Marvel, that's kind of done the best comparatively to the rest of the... So it's like, I don't know.
I'm conflicted. One of the things that rubbed me the wrong way is not the idea that New Asgard has become this like amusement park. No, I think that's actually a pretty hilarious idea, but I do lament though that we traded in the gorgeous visuals of the original Asgard for the really lacklusterness of New Asgard. And I understand that New Asgard is them having to start over and you have to start small and, before they get, somewhere and everything. But part of me does lament them not going for something. I mean, it's not the scale of it. I know it's small. It's supposed to be. But particularly where it grates on me are in the scenes where they're in the town hall or whatever. Yeah. And it just looks like I'm in like the Brawley City Hall here where I live, or the El Centro City Hall. And I'm like, they're Asgardians. You could have, I get them integrating with Earth lifestyle and Earth fashion, but you could have done something to make it a cross between Asgardian and, Terrans, shall we say.
Yeah. There were some moments where I was like, I kind of like the way that they're sort of, because I thought it was kind of neat how you look in the crowd in New Asgard and like half of them are in like traditional Asgardian robes and like half are in like human regular Earth clothes.
And then some weren't even Asgardian at all. Some were like just cross aliens or whatever.
Yeah. They just probably visited or
live there now.
Live there now. And then, so I was like, that's kind of neat. Yeah. But then another part of me is like, like you're doing all of this because it's cheaper. Because it's just a human village.
And that's the biggest con is that it comes off as cheap. And so we're having like extended scenes where you have like our four main, like our team here, Korg, Val, Jane and Thor, and they're standing around having dialogue scenes, and the whole time I can't help but notice, again, I say this lovingly, I mean, that's something where I think it works on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because that's a lower budget TV series, like they don't have the option to go for something like a far grander like set, but for like a movie of this caliber of the budget particularly, for them to have like an extended sequence in what it really amounts to like a small town square, city hall, it's really noticeable and not in a good way. So that's part of, I guess, a con, shall we say, on part of the locations.
This is what I mean. Like, I hear a lot of people criticize, like, making these kind of criticism, and it's like, you're right.
Yeah.
But also, this is the film that I think is probably overall better at it than, like, most of the recent Marvel stuff, including, like, the TV shows. So it's like... why single this one out? Like, I don't know. Because there were visual moments and things that have stuck with me within Thor Ragnarok, right?
I will say, I'll give you an example of this.
Not Ragnarok, Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder. While the sequences where they're on the first planet, when Thor is with the Guardians, with the blue people. First of all, that whole thing, loved all of it. All the scenes after the action happens, when we cut back to them after we see Jane and we cut back to that planet, all the talking scenes that take place on the outside, you can tell they fucked up really bad with the visual aspect of the volume, and it comes across as obviously very glossy and fake. However, when it's used for the action sequences, I thought it looked pretty good. I actually kind of liked it.
I really liked the opening, right?
Yes.
Everything from like gore leading up to the MCU intro, and then you get the reintroduction to Thor, and then Thor coming out and helping. You have this idea of like Thor's just been going around having adventures with the Guardians, saving people here and there, and he's sort of like the big dog that they call in when they realize they can't win the thing.
Yeah.
And he just kind of comes in and wrecks shop. And I love that little battle with him and like the chicken aliens. I thought it was funny. I thought it was fun.
Bonus points for this movie. Bonus points for this movie having like interesting looking alien design Muppet creature things. Like, a lot of it takes place in outer space. Like props on Marvel on this, I will say, for being unusually more creative in this department than Star Wars has, with like interesting looking new alien out there looking alien designs.
Well, not even just alien design, like god designs, because we haven't gone to this, but when they get to on Omnipotent City,
yes,
I really like, I don't know, this is just little things that like make me, where I'm like, I'm having fun, right?
Yeah.
Where you look into the crowd and you see like this variety of different looking gods. You see like an Aztec god, and like these massive creatures, an alien looking thing. It look, I don't know, it just looks real cool. And it's like, I'm having fun. I don't know what to tell you. I see that visually and I'm like, oh, that's fun. I get a joke and I laugh. There's an action scene and I'm like, hey, this is a fun action scene. Like, and that was just the movie for me, right? And then by the time it ended, I was like, I don't know. Like I had a really good time. And I saw it twice. So I really like made sure. Like,
I saw it thrice.
3? Oh, so you really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it, man. Like, and I enjoyed it more each time, to where it's like, every time I saw it and it ended, like, wow, this really worked for me. Yeah. And to me, like, what was most important about this film that I really enjoyed so much is that this feels more so a Taika Waititi film than it does a Marvel movie.
Yes.
First and foremost, I appreciate that. The humor is the wittiest it's been in a long time, and I think it really is. Yeah, there were like maybe the off one-liner here and there that kind of landed, not really, but on the whole, it works really well. And I think I don't think it gets enough credit. I don't, because all the stuff with the Stormbreaker, Mjolnir, like X-Axe thing was brilliant, and how, of course, that, you know, is a parallel with like Thor and still having feelings for Jane. That was unbelievably amazing, as well as the goats. I honestly cannot believe that those goats got me every single time. Every single time for all 3 of those showtimes. And that's even stayed with me. A lot of the humor, by the way, in this movie has stayed with me after having seen the film, where I'm like thinking about it and continuously laughing about those goats, and all the stuff that all the physical comedy with the Guardians was integrated so well. Just all the way throughout, the humor, I think, is horribly underrated. Then we get to the stuff with Gore. Again, I think the issue here is I would have wanted 1 or 2 more scenes to just, you know, live with him. That's one thing. I think that this film actually is one of the few that, you know, takes advantage of its runtime, and then just, you get to spend time with these characters living. It has like a laid back nature, I would say, to it, that it's all its own in a way, where it's more focused on the character stuff. That's why it reminds me a lot of Guardians 2, where the plot is there, but it's not really a focus for the most part. It's about these characters.
You know what it reminds me of? It kind of reminds me a lot of like the early 2000s superhero films, where it's like...
Which ones? All of them.
Well, just like sort of the structure, right? Where you have a hero, they're going about their thing, then a villain, you see the villain get created, they have their plot, like it's very bare, that sort of bare bones formula in that way. And then it also reminds me of like an 80s kids movie. In sort of, especially in that third act, and a lot of the stuff they do with that. But all those things, I don't know. To me, it sort of comes off intentional. Like, it doesn't feel...
No, it's all by design.
Yeah.
It's all by design. I think, again, people often have I've noticed with a lot of recent films, which, again, also lends, you know, a lot of, I guess, credence to the idea that there's a growing number of film illiteracy, shall we say. But I think of Malignant, where, like, people just can't discern the intent behind what you're seeing, you know? And that's part of the issue. But Christian Bale chewed up the scenery. I thought he gave a terrific performance. He was having so much fun with that character, and I do lament we didn't get to see more of him. Similarly with Natalie Portman, I thought she was terrific as, you know, the mighty Thor. I do wish we would have gotten to see that scene with her, you know, powering up for the first time, you know, meeting Val and deciding that, you know, getting to see her moment, realizing she's got a second wind at life to do some good, you know? I think we really needed that, or at least for that to have, like, been, I guess, really it's inferred, but, and when she passes away as well, like, it all comes into focus, but... Yeah, but I thought it was great to bring Jane back, and I honestly love what they did with her. I think her action sequences were great. I thought she vibed well with the Taika Waititi tone, and I honestly really loved the focus on the romance. Of course, the awkwardness was a big part of it, but Hemsworth and Portman played it really well. In those moments where the film slows down to really drive home those two and the love that they share between each other, I thought is when it really shines. And I'm sorry to say that it comes off as cheesy for most people, but for me, that's what I want out of these movies. And I'm happy. Look, we got a Marvel movie that actually took the time to flesh out and focus on romance. That's really unheard of.
I mean, I think one of my favorite parts of the movie was the flashback to their time together. Yes. I love it so much.
Let me tell you the story of Thor and Jane. Or the Legend of Thor and Jane, whatever.
But I also love that framing of, like, the movie is Korg telling the, you know...
Yes, the Legend of Love and Thunder, as I lovingly love to call this movie.
Of Thor himself and
Thor Odinson.
I don't know if we talked about it, but we talked about it on Messenger, but not here. Like the theme of the movie, which, you know, again, it's not a deep film, but it has I think a nice, lovely little theme and art.
I would argue this is considered deep by most Marvel standards.
Probably. But it's very much just like...
Well, wait, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. Are you sure? Like, it's... Well, I know it's not that deep, but I guess what I was trying to say is...
I'm saying as a movie.
I know as a movie, but like... What I find so curious is how people don't seem to detect it's even there. In a lot of the reviews that I've read.
Maybe they do, but they just don't talk about it. Because...
Or they don't care, or they don't feel that it was executed rather well.
Or it's not executed well, or something. But I guess I would like to... I'd really like to see like a deep dive by someone who really disliked the film into like...
Mm-hmm.
Besides the humor.
Right.
Because if it really is just down to humor, then it's like, man, I guess that just sucks, right? Because you can't argue with someone over humor, right?
No.
It's like, if you came out saying, like, I don't like the humor, then it's like, well, yeah, I guess, you know, that it is what it is, right? Some people think something's funny, some other people think they're not. You know, there's not much you can do to really move that.
On what you were about to say, because I think it's really important about the themes in this film, I want to read a tweet by Zoe Bryant, which I think summarizes how I feel about the film's themes, and that is, been thinking, and one of the things I liked most about Love and Thunder is not just where it leaves Thor as a character, but also what Love and Thunder means. Taika built to that conclusion beautifully, and it fits the film's themes so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? And you know, for anyone... because I haven't really seen much people talk about it. We'll talk about it right now. The movie clearly is about, you know, the movie starts and Thor... Korg actually tells us about how Thor has, you know, he's this long thousands-year-old hero who has saved the day many a time, but he has also suffered a great amount of loss, right? And that large amount of loss has left him feeling lost and... you know, puts himself at an arm's distance when it comes to those close to him, right? And then he gets reintroduced to Jane, and the way she kind of works into that is that's kind of what ended their relationship. You know, they were both really in love, but they were kind of afraid of losing that, so they kept each other at an arm's distance to the point where they just kind of broke up. And now they're, you know, brought back into each other's lives, and Thor's like, you know, as he lovingly says, you know, I want you to be my shitty feeling. He wants he wants to say yes to love, I guess, right? And that's kind of, you know, how they not necessarily defeat but overcome the main bad guy in the end, is sort of persuade him to say yes to love and bring his daughter back. And now, you know, he leaves off, you know, keeping everyone at an arm's length, but then he ends the story with the daughter where, of course, she's not at arm's length. She's, you know, someone very close to him. And, you know, it basically represents him, you know, accepting and giving into love, even through all the loss that he's been through, right?
Yes.
And, it's nice. It's sweet, you know.
Part of me was surprised that they really although, you know, in retrospect I think they were hinting at it and it makes all the sense and ultimately I'm very happy with where it all ended up falling into place. But for me, I was really surprised they would really do Thor like that when, you know, Jane was dying. It was a beautiful scene in and of itself. But it's like, man, they started off this movie with like Thor losing everybody, and I thought the film was going to build to like Thor finding love again, and that Jane is his love, and that they belong together. I thought that's what it was going to be, and for him to lose that in the moment, it was kind of crushing, because like, man, I love this guy, I love Thor, and hasn't he been through enough? But then comes the twist, and then the whole thing comes into perspective, and then what they do with him is, no, they do finally give him his love, but as Ryan Johnson, I guess, coined this infamous term, it subverted my expectations, and it actually gave me something I didn't know I wanted, but it ended up working really freaking well.
Yeah, I like Daddy Thor and the idea of Daddy Thor, yeah.
Again, it still works with the theme, because ultimately one of the messages is like, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Yeah, and he chooses that.
And still losing it, basically.
Yes, even though he knows he's going to lose it, he still chooses it, which is kind of, yeah. Which again, overall, I don't know, like I vibe with it, I dig it. I think, could it have been done a little bit better? Yes, but that's where like more scenes with the other characters come in. Because I will say, like, them getting back together, I do feel is a little rushed. Because they go from like kind of acting awkward at Omnipotent City to like on the way to the Shadow Realm, kind of being like, I love you, you know. And I would have liked to have like a scene in between them, where they rekindle it a little bit more, and then on the ride to Shadow, that's when he like bursts out like, "Oh my god, I love you," you know, and then they. So that's what I mean. Like 10 minutes more, I think really could have ironed out the wrinkles for a lot of this.
And it seems the only explanation that we have for why the film feels that way and why the runtime was what it was. Guess who came in again and kept the film from got in the way of the film. The runtime apparently was mandated from Marvel Studios. Why? Because.
Yeah. Which is weird, because it's the same thing with, like, Doctor Strange, right? Is that, like, a new thing for them? Like, 2-hour mandatory runtimes? Like, I don't... Maybe they thought, like, we won't make as much money as we should for our stockholders because of pandemic, yada, yada, yada. So if we have shorter runtimes, we'll overall end up making more money. Like, I don't know. That could factor into it, but...
The whole reveal of Thor basically getting this daughter, and of course in real life it is his actual daughter. Man, they built to that so beautifully. I loved it so much. Those last moments when that reveal happened, I was just smiling because, like, wow. I was kind of moved, actually, really, watching. And of course, I got chills when, like, they were, like, you know, leaping in the air. And then, of course, Korg ended his narration with, like, the legend that they'll be known as Love and Thunder. And it's like, wow. Like, I'm just so not used to Marvel films caring in the least about themes, caring in the least about having anything to say or having a message or the least of all, like, tying all those things to a point or two. And of course, with Sweet Child O' Mine playing, it's by the time ending.
The movie ends, and you know, Korg's like, you know, but to all who know them, they are known as Love and Thunder. I was, you know, that I was like, oh, you know, that worked. I was like, you know, that hit me, and you know, and like you said, the music playing, I was like, yeah, you know, they say for a movie, how it ends and how it makes you, how it leaves you feeling is like unbelievably important to how you feel overall to a film. And I think that's true. And like that last little part with how it ended, that really worked on me. So maybe that also colors a big reason of why I walked away really enjoying the movie.
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy we got something in this universe that we got to enjoy really, really well. And, well, I'll say this, in a not so shady way. It was a nice palate cleanser after the finale, of Miss Marvel.
Oh boy.
So I guess we gotta address that. Now, I have to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I did watch a reaction to the episode, which is basically like watching it again.
The normies?
Yes, of the final episode of Miss Marvel. And look, I feel like considering what they were given up until the last scene, I would say it ranks among the best of the Disney Plus finales in comparison to their finales.
Yeah.
Because, again, the Marvel Disney Plus finales aren't really allowed to be much more than just a big action scene. But here, they did remember to have in some moments for the characters. There was an attempt. Of course, they had to rush through it all, but it was there at least. The problem ultimately with the show is that it was really, the story was enough. It was designed almost to be 22 episodes, but you only had 6 episodes to tell it. and it really shows. And like for me, it works really well, but it really does sting. I gotta be honest. It stings because it would feel so much more earned, and therefore it would be so much better if the time had been spent to properly flesh these characters out, and if the last half of the show literally wasn't like sprinting to get to the finale. It honestly is so disappointing that, to be fair, I do think there is an argument to be made, quite easily, as a matter of fact, that this is the best of the Disney Plus series. But all the same, disappointing that in the end, it ends up being almost completely unraveled because of Kevin Feige.
Yeah. This one hurt, man.
Yeah.
It hurt because...
For a variety of reasons, at least for me.
Well, for me specifically, I was really looking forward to it. And you know what? The first 2 episodes, I loved.
First 3.
First 3, The third one, it started to rush, though. And
because of the clandestine, yeah.
Yeah, the second the clandestines hit the scene, it's just like...
That's when the problems began to hit.
Yes. And then the hits just don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming. Yeah. So, like you said, to me, what's crazy about this is it does feel like this was meant to be like a 22 episode, like a regular TV show, right?
Yeah.
And we got the first 2 episodes of that 22, and then they're like, "Oh, guys, sorry, you got like 4 episodes left." They're like, "Fuck," and they try to condense a whole season's worth of shit that they're gonna do into 4 episodes, right? And because the people behind it are pretty talented, it's not terrible, right?
They did as good a job as they were allowed to do, basically.
Yes. But it just feels like I'm watching a highlight reel
of a season.
Of television. And it's just like, fuck. But I know it's a show that I would like because those first 2 episodes work so well. Like I love everything with her at school, like in that fucking teacher's counselor.
Yes.
The style. Do you notice how the style hits hard in the first 2 episodes,
and then it just drops off a cliff.
Drops off a cliff completely, and that's why it just feels like, man, like the heart and soul was really put into those first 2 episodes, and then around 3, it's like fuck. Never mind, you got 4 episodes.
It's like 3. They were reminded. By the way, this is Marvel, guys. So you gotta remember. Look at the fine print of your contract, and remember like all the things. This is Kevin's wish list, and here are the things you got to put in. And then this is the point where you know it's fine. You had your cutesy artiste stuff in the beginning, but now you gotta go back to making this a Marvel thing.
They're like, yeah, you know how the clandestines were supposed to turn bad by episode 10. They need to turn bad by the end of this episode.
The same episode in which they're introduced.
Yeah, and it's just like, man. There's just like zero opportunity to really explore anything, right? It's like, oh, the brother's supposed to get married. He gets married. Clandestine's introduced. They're friends. They're from another universe. They're enemies. Now we gotta go to Pakistan. Now we're in Pakistan. Now we've discovered a secret hidden society. Now we're in the past, and you know, and we're watching the story in the past, and then now for the finale, we're back to over here, and then
we're fighting people who just showed up out of nowhere that were not at all involved with any of these events. Now we have a different big bad.
I forgot to mention the clandestines are dead.
That's right, yeah.
That happened
because the show basically skips past that as if it was nothing.
And it's like, fuck, like all the actors are great, right? The humor and just it's so fun. I especially it's so fun just living in these people's world, right? Their neighborhood, their school, and learning about the ups and downs, and you know, all of that stuff. I think is what makes it work. So it sucks how after 2.5 episodes, it's like we gotta drop that to ram through like 20 episodes of plot because this can only be a 6-hour movie. And I'm sorry, it seems like the only ones that can really like that whole 8-hour, 6-hour movie thing, the only ones that feel like actually like we're able to convincingly do that well are like the Stranger Things guys and like Daredevil. I feel like those
condense it to 8.
Yeah, where it feels like an 8-hour movie, I guess.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Because I do feel like Stranger Things feels like an 8-hour movie.
Sure,
or 8-episode movie kind of thing.
Right.
And I do think Daredevil successfully did that as well, where it does feel like a movie sort of stretched over one movie.
Oh, to be clear though, of course, Daredevil had 13 episode seasons.
Holy shit, that's right. But 3 of them didn't work, so 8 episodes. Yeah, and again, this is yet again my plea. Watch The Boys. It's so goddamn good. I know you don't want to. I can see it in your eyes and your heart and your soul.
I don't want to submit, but
You will love it. This is the thing. This is what bothers me so, is that you would love it. That is actually framed like an actual television show, and I think that's why it works.
Because the guy worked in broadcast television. He would do that.
Yeah.
That quote that I shared last week, did you read it?
Yeah.
The guy from The Boys that basically was like calling out all these assholes for like, oh, we're gonna make an 8-hour movie or whatever, and just like basically was the downside of streaming is that a lot of filmmakers who work in streaming didn't necessarily come out of that network grind. They're more comfortable with the idea that they could give you 10 hours where nothing happens until the 8th hour. That drives me fucking nuts personally. As a network guy who had to get you people interested for 22 fucking hours a year, I didn't get the benefit of, oh, just hang in there and don't worry. The critics will tell you that by episode 8, shit really hits the fan. Or anyone who says, well, what I'm really making is a 10-hour movie. Fuck you. No, you're not. Make a TV show. You're in the entertainment business. That was from Eric Kripke, the showrunner for The Boys on Amazon Prime. Which is, I mean, that's another larger issue with the Marvel Disney Plus series, particularly because they're not making TV shows; they're making 6-hour movies. They're just making a movie and they're chopping it up into 6 parts, and that's also carried over to Lucasfilm.
Which is why it feels like a lot of it is nothing happening, right? Because it's not like they're adding in. Because when I look at like Stranger Things, right, even though, especially looking like at the first scene, you know, it feels like an 8-hour movie, but the episodes themselves are designed like episodes, right? So like the story, the outline of the story is like, okay, this could be a movie, but then the episodes themselves and all the details that and how they work together are designed like a television episode.
Yeah, they give you more than enough that if there was a multiverse where that show, Stranger Things, did a week to week, it would still work.
Yes. And the issue is these things do not work week to week.
The Disney Plus Marvel shows.
Yes, they feel...
Or the Disney Plus shows in general.
It feels... Yeah, because like, I heard someone made like a 2-hour edit of Obi-Wan. And I'm like, I'd love to see that. Legitimately. Yeah, it seems like they take the script for 2.5 hour movies and then just like, but this is why Miss Marvel felt so different, because it didn't feel like a script for a 2-hour movie. It felt like an outline for a season of television.
Yeah.
And it felt like they started to make a full season of television, and then halfway through they're like, fuck, wait, no. That's not right. Sorry, we only have 2.
That's what makes it so particularly crushing. And insulting all the same, because Disney and Marvel did not know what they had on their hands.
No.
They very easily could have had a 13 to 22 episode season of TV that would have captivated people's attentions week in and week out. Would have been, I think it had the potential to be the next big streaming sensation. And they pissed it away with the mandate of it being 6 episodes among other reasons, of course. And then also, I mean, just putting this at the same time as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Stranger Things, this and The Boys, it got buried. It fell out. It is the first MCU Disney Plus series to fall out of the Nielsen Top 10 streaming charts.
Which sucks, because I love the Miss Marvel character in the show. I'm not even talking about the comic, but in the show, she's in great. The show. The actress, she's so good. Iman
Vellani is amazing. Absolutely.
Like, honestly, I never thought I would say this, but I'm kind of looking forward to the Marvels.
Because of Iman Vellani, right?
Yeah.
To see her again, yeah.
And I do like Brie Larson, and it's like maybe this time they'll make a character for her, because they haven't had the opportunity to yet. And
she got so fucked over by that movie.
And it's being directed by Nia DaCosta,
you're right,
who did the Candyman sequel. And I don't know if you heard, but apparently this is the new rumor going around.
There's a lot of rumors these days
that the movie is partially a musical.
Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot, and it's been confirmed by several of the sources that I see. And she can't sing. Brie Larson can't sing, and I think that's clever, as a matter of fact. And I think that
I have no idea what to make of it, but I'm like, I
mean, I wouldn't see it coming, but I mean, hell, I mean, if again,
fuck it, right? Like,
yeah, that's an example of Marvel letting the creatives be a little creative. I mean, I'll give you look. Kevin Feige can be amenable if he's pressed. I think still at the end of the day, he presses so much of himself that he gets in the way of things. But I'll give you another example. I mean, it's pathetic that it had to be a fight, but that stare down between Mordo and Strange in Multiverse of Madness, the idea that Kevin Feige looked down on that as like, okay, Sam, you can have your cheesy stare down, like. What? I don't get the rationale behind that, but thankfully he caved and let Sam have that one little thing in the movie.
See, I give him no credit for that because that's so stupid.
I know.
It's so funny. So many people had issues with like the cheesiness of the movie. I never saw one people bring that moment up as an example of the cheesiness.
Never, no.
Which is so funny. No. They brought up a lot of other moments, and it's like, yeah, I agree, it's cheesy, but it's so much fun. Like it's a goddamn superhero movie. You know, relax a little bit.
Well, Kevin Feige also, I mean, again, look, it's come out in recent months that when he's in test screenings for the films, he prioritizes humor above everything else. And on top of that, with the audio commentary of Multiverse of Madness, it was literally just set out there by Sam Raimi. The only reason why John Krasinski was even in that movie as Mr. Fantastic was because the fans wanted it.
Yeah, and he was like, well, we're not going to do it, but it's like a little
here it is
fan moment thing.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know.
His priorities, I feel, are way out of whack.
I guess for me, it's like every time I get a little excited about like, ooh, this could be good with Marvel, it's always like, well, it is, but it's half-assed good because the Marvel part is still holding it back, and I walk out frustrated, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I'm tired of that frustration. So it's like, that's why I'm kind of like, I was like, oh, like I'm kind of interested into the Marvels now, but I just, it's like 9 out of 10 chance that it's gonna, even if it is good and I do enjoy it in some sense, it's gonna be that frustration of like, fuck, if only it wasn't tied to Marvel and it was allowed to go a little bit further, I would really love it, you know?
Look, the thing is, talk about wasted time here. We mentioned earlier that a lot of these shows feel as if they only exist to introduce characters. Well, if in fact there really is no season 2, which, if we're being honest, is a bit of a precarious situation if there ever will be, considering how it's underperforming severely on the streaming service. If in fact there is no second season, I feel this makes all of the issues with this first season even worse. Because it's just like even more squandered potential.
Yeah.
Like it really got fucked with.
You know,
what a damning indictment if there is no season 2 of this show.
You know what we'll really be able to tell is the same directors are directing the Batwoman movie. Or Batgirl.
Really? Interesting.
Yes. And the one that I guess is going straight to
the HBO Max?
HBO Max.
Okay.
But it's a Batgirl movie, and it's the one that's gonna have what's his name from The Mummy as the main villain?
Brendan Fraser?
Brendan Fraser, yeah. Brendan Fraser is the main villain, Firefly. And it's going to have the old Batman in there with, like...
Michael Keaton?
So
I imagine we'll find out more about that during Comic-Con? That's coming up soon?
Yeah, I imagine so. But I guess for me, it's like, if I watch that and I'm like, oh man, this is really good, then it's kind of me going like, fuck. You know, that kind of tells me what the issue was, you know. If I walk away from Batgirl, like, really, really loving it.
Are you being called away?
Yeah.
I think you're being called away. Go ahead and take that. Go ahead. This is the moment of the podcast. We've gone long enough, and Peter has to escort his cat out of the room because she goes crazy if she's locked up in the room, I guess, for way too long. So Peter's, at the moment, going ahead and doing that. But, yeah, I mean, I get what you feel. But, I mean, even looking at this show again, it's really... It's so upsetting to me that people just continuously gloss over a lot of the issues that we see here just because of a reveal. And this freaking trick works every single time. So yeah, there's a mutant thing that happened at the end, and everyone's like so excited about what this means for the MCU. Meanwhile, no one seems to realize it kind of ruins the whole show and makes it that much worse by just adding in that one line of that stupid theme song at the end of it. Because half of the show was really, literally just wasting time trying to really hard to explain what Miss Marvel is, where she gets her powers from, all for that, in the end, to have just been a ruse to knock you off the scent.
Yeah. We spent so much time with the clandestines and all the
by the way,
backstory.
we don't even know what they are or what they wanted, and I think are downright the worst villains of the entire MCU.
They're just nothing. But we spend so much time building up this backstory for where she gets her power. Like they spend multiple episodes explaining that her powers stem from the
Bangle.
No. It's because
the Noor dimension.
The Noor dimension. So she's able to pull power from the Noor dimension because she's half Jinn, and the Bangle allows her to do that. But because she's half Jinn, half human, the Jinns can't do it because they're not from this dimension. But because she's half human, half Jinn, she's able to pull from this dimension, and that's how she gets her powers. And it's like they spent so much time explaining this, and at the end they're like, "She's an X-Men," and it's like, wait, what? How does that connect to anything that you've told us at all?
Not to mention some of the other, like, not so subtle hints that were dropped along the way that could be construed as tying into her comic book origin as an Inhuman.
Yes. Like little, maybe Easter eggs or just sort of throws to that.
Like, one of the things that literally went unexplained, and seemingly everybody has moved on because no one gives a shit, it's like, that thing that happened at the end with the clandestines. They turned into husks that look similarly like the process of Terrigenesis, and they just, like, died? And then, like, Najima's essence went into Kamran? What was that all about? And it's hilarious how the show made no effort whatsoever to explain what that was.
They didn't have time.
Just kind of left it there.
It just happens. There's no time.
And I can't even explain to you what that was at all. Like so are these, like, Noor people X-Men? And...
Well, no, it's a mutation, remember?
Was that Terrigenesis? And is that what killed? I don't know. What was all that?
It's so clearly...
Here we are 2 weeks later almost, and it's like, what?
It so clearly had nothing to do with X-Men or mutant genes or anything. It was so obviously a last-minute throwaway thing.
And it's like...
So stupid.
All those things we just mentioned were a complete waste of time.
I can almost guarantee you we're never going to hear the words Noor Dimension ever again.
Wow.
So stupid.
They just pulled that out of her. I mean, Kevin Feige pulled that out of his ass and decided last minute, you know what, we'll just make her a mutant instead of an Inhuman. And yes, in the text of the show, it kind of breaks everything, especially considering that there's a Kree and a Bangle and the Ten Rings and Captain Marvel were all connected, and I guess this also ties back in. Okay, that's all bad because we can't make heads or tails of what any of that meant, and it obviously is messy. I mean, at best it's sloppy, at worst it's messy. But can I ask you then, what do you feel was Kevin Feige's rationale? And ultimately, does it work for you?
I think
to switch to make her a mutant instead of an Inhuman.
His rationale was, I am going to use this character as a through line to the X-Men. And that was it.
Okay. Now, I suspect you don't like that at all. Why do you feel ultimately that was a very poor decision?
I mean, in general, it was a poor decision. But the reason why it was a poor decision ultimately was because that was clearly not the plan from the beginning. You could have had a show where it's like, she put on the bangle, she has these powers, and then it's like, like, you know, that's weird. You know, it's like, is the bangle giving her powers? And then you have, what's his name, be like, well, let me do tests, you know, on you, her super smart Bruno friend. And then it's like, well, okay, but then you kind of forget, it's like, everyone just kind of assumes, like, okay, she gets the bangle, the bangle gives her powers, like, that's just kind of assumed. But then you just have a show that's not about her origin or any of that shit. It has to do with, like, her dealing with school, maybe have a different villain. If you really want these government people, which, again, I think there's too many government groups at this point. That's another thing. How many secret societies, how many government people, none of them that well fleshed out. Even if you have to create a new villain, just do it. Just have some threat that she's dealing throughout her time in high school, and just forget about where she got the powers. And then on the last episode, you could be like, oh yeah, like, remember all those tests I was doing? Like, it seems like it turns out the bangle isn't giving you your powers. It's like the powers coming from inside of you. Yeah, it's like your DNA is different. Like, there's a mutation, and then you can do that. And it's like, okay, at the very least, that doesn't contradict anything set up, right?
At the very least, that would work better.
Yeah. At the very least, you can do that. But then don't spend this entire fucking, like, let's be real. It's a Rey Palpatine thing, right?
Yeah.
You spend the whole last movie being like, hey, your parents are nobody. And then at the end, it's like, psych, Palpatine fucks. Oh, and also Palpatine is back. Somehow he lived. Like, it's just, somehow he has returned. It's such an obvious, like, last minute 180 degree turn, and it's, you can tell.
Well, okay, to press further on that, because I feel like all of what you're saying is true. If all of it happened the way it was, but let's just change one thing. If in fact they had said, instead of mutation, he said Inhuman, does that change anything?
Well, no, that makes sense.
So, yeah, right? That would make so much more sense. Mm-hmm. Just with one little word.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because Inhumans are directly attached to, one, the Kree,
right,
which they kind of give a hint to, having been earlier.
McCree was wearing a bangle.
Yes. It would still be a little bit messy because you firmly established, like, oh no,
the Jinn and the Norn and all that stuff,
clandestines and stuff. But I think you can easily go like, the clandestines are like a faction of the Inhumans that split apart, yada yada yada. You know, just something like that, right? Like that. I do think in Humans it would still be a little bit messy, but it would make way more sense.
It would feel more of a natural fit.
Yeah, insanely more yeah.
Not just because, of course, that was the origin in the comics, but because along the way, the show, you could make the argument they were dropping hints along the way.
Yes.
To do that. So at the very least, it would feel intentional instead of it feeling like completely out of nowhere than as it does with a mutant. So then comes the next question to you. Ultimately, is the reason why at some point, do you feel it was ever on the table for this version of Ms. Marvel in the MCU to have been revealed to be an Inhuman. I don't think it was. But then again, I look at the show, and then there are like these nods. Okay, so then were those nods just like useless Easter eggs to like, oh yeah, we see you, comic book version Kamala Khan. But I think it's clear that for the majority of the production of this show and from its design, it was not written to be built up to a reveal that she would be a mutant. That was a last minute thing. Do you feel it was ever on the table, though, that it would be building up to reveal her as an Inhuman? Do you think Kevin Feige would realistically, at any point in these last few years, consider doing those Inhumans?
I'm sure he had late night considerations about it, but I mean, at the end of the day,
so
right?
A nice way of putting it, late night considerations.
At the end of the day, right? Every decision in this universe comes down to him.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if it was up to like the writers and a lot of the creatives behind it, I'm sure they would have straight up just been like, oh yeah, she's an Inhuman. I think a lot of them would have made explicit connections to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there for 100% would have been that sort of
connectivity,
yeah. But at the end of the day, it's Kevin Feige, and he's just kind of decided he does not want
Inhumans. I feel that's pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
It's been made abundantly clear that that's just not something he wants to do. Clearly at this moment, but maybe even not at all, because this is where it also gets messier. Because, okay, that's all the problems that have already dragged down and affected Ms. Marvel. But then it also, I feel this revelation also breaks something else entirely. And that is, if this is really the starting point for mutants in the MCU, I don't like it at all. Because it comes across as like, I mean, it feels like, from a fundamental standpoint, it gets some things pretty clearly wrong. Because, okay, so
his hatred of the Inhumans is fucking with the X-Men now.
Okay, go ahead and elaborate on that.
Because, I mean, well, first of all, the X-Men were always gonna be kind of fucked. Because, the whole point is, like, X-Men, they have a deep connectivity to, like... What? I know! Leave it!
Is it Tootsie?
Yes.
Oh, God. Did they not see you, like, opening the door and kicking her out?
They don't care.
Okay.
But like the X-Men, there's a deep connectivity to like World War II and the Holocaust, and a lot of that, world history with Charles Xavier and Magneto, and the way that they just sort of, they were just a human mutation that just started popping up everywhere.
As part of the natural progression of human evolution. I believe that's how it was like framed in the original films. Not, I don't know the comics, but I think it was very closely to the comics.
It's literally just human evolution has, created these mutations. They call them mutants, and this is the next step in human evolution. It's very hard to do that. Like, what do you do with Charles Xavier and Magneto if you don't connect them directly to their, 1930s history?
On top of, and I think this is a really interesting question, how do you make in this cinematic universe where superheroes pop up left and right and they're immediately celebrated and like social media stars and whatever, how do you make the public, after everything they've seen and how they've openly embraced superheroes, how do you get them to also at the same time hate mutants?
Can I tell you something? I mean, to be fair, I had that issue in the comics where I was like, I don't know why you guys are cheering for these heroes, but you're not for these.
Seems hypocritical.
Yeah. That even as a kid,
that just occurred to me the other day. It's like, how can they have that?
That's why the X-Men I was kind of okay with the X-Men being their own universe.
Because Fox. They can't work.
Because it's a little, it gets muddy.
Right. At best, you should say it gets muddy. But the way that Feige has opted to go about them yet again seems like the worst version possible.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're just, I guess, mutants are we're gonna see mutants just start popping up, I guess. Yeah.
And how that works, I don't know. I mean, is he really going to go the route of like making it a genetic thing instead of an evolutionary thing? Because if he makes it a genetic thing, that's in humans. That's not X-Men.
I think he'll make it an evolutionary thing and a genetic thing, but it's also like, well, what are you going to do with Charles Xavier? What are you going to do with Magneto? What are you going to do with because the X-Men stories start with mutants just already being a thing.
Right.
And they've been a thing for many years, and there's just prejudice against them, and that's kind of where we start, right? So I don't know. Like, I honestly, it was already going to be a really with
hard sell.
With Fantastic Four, it's very easy, right? You can But with X-Men, it's going to be really difficult considering the way the characters are, and especially because people adore the X-Men. So, like, how much they're tied to their origin and the way the characters are already. And then you're really sort of, like, fucking with it by and mishandling it by, like, oh no, Miss Marvel, who's had nothing to do with the X-Men in the comics, well, she's an X-Men because of some mutation, but she's also from the Nor dimension, so does that mean X-Men are part of the... Like, again, it adds these unnecessary, complicated layers. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out at not Comic-Con.
San Diego Comic-Con?
No, not at Comic-Con. Apparently they're not announcing anything.
That's right, D23.
D23, yeah.
I mean, do you believe that? I think I have to imagine they'll have something of an announcement to make when it comes to that.
I assume so. At D23, though. People have been hinting at this mutant things for years. I have to assume at some point it was true, and it might still be true, so... Like, the title of it being called The Mutants instead of X-Men. Which leads me to believe that it is sort of like an origin of mutants. Like, this is the first time mutants are popping up.
Calling it The Mutants, if that's really the title of it?
Like they're pulling the same thing they did with Spider-Man, where it's like, we're gonna wait 3 movies until he finally becomes Spider-Man. We're gonna wait 3 fucking movies until
just
they
finally
become the X-Men. You know? The mutants... close to home.
I can't imagine this is going to go over well. But then again, I've been surprised before. I mean,
they're going to show them in their original costumes from like the 1980s cartoons, and people are going to.
But that's not enough.
It's enough for most people because they're. Guess what? Because a lot of these people online, their livelihoods depend on it. So it's enough for them.
Before we go, I did want to read you something. This is a thread about... There's a lot of rumors happening. By the way, in case anybody forgot, they're going to be announcing a lot of stuff at Comic-Con. Or D23. I don't know which is which. But I shared with Peter a roster for like the coming shows that are happening with Disney Plus and Marvel. And I'm really surprised how I don't care about a single one of them. At all. And when you just look left and right, there are problems that I just have issues with. I'm sorry. I can't get excited for a Daredevil show with those writers and directors. I think you really you shit the bed immediately with hiring those people. And I don't care about that show. At the same time, I was mildly interested for Secret Invasion because I would like to see a spy-oriented, like something in the MCU with Nick Fury.
I think I was going to say, I think we're going to find out that entire show was completely rewritten.
Yeah,
like it's going to be completely different than what it was originally going to be.
Because, by the way, they started production in August of 2021 and wrapped in April, quote unquote, wrapped in April of 2022. And at the moment, they're about to go through 4 months of reshoots.
That's a movie.
That's wow.
I think they're just redoing the show. I think whatever plans they had changed. And again, I don't see anyone really talking about it in that way. I think it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
I guess we'll see how that works out with it. But one of the things that ties into Secret Invasion, or ties Secret Invasion to this rumor, was the fact that, not the fact, but there have been persistent rumors, of which we should clarify. We talked about this last year. Chloe Bennett denied her involvement in Secret Invasion. But the rumors have yet persisted of her having a cameo in Secret Invasion. Who knows if that's true? But I discussed this with David that there was a rumor earlier in the year that I dismissed offhand because it just sounds nonsensical, but now no longer seems to be the case because of the revelation of mutants being done and Inhumans not. But there was a rumor earlier in the year that suggested that Chloe Bennett was going to return as Quake, but a variant of the S.H.I.E.L.D. character, and this time she would be a mutant, not an Inhuman. Now that seems more likelier than not because of the mutant change.
Now she's going to be a mutant. I can see them doing that.
And I think what's been gaining traction the last couple of days, though, and this comes from several different sources, but this guy had a thread on Twitter that he claims to be his scoop, gathered from his sources that apparently are close to the Whedon clan or whatever, and also Marvel. But the reason why I'm sharing this because this no longer sounds out of the realm of possibility. What he describes here is something that I could very clearly see them doing, and I discussed this with Kyle, I discussed this with David, and we all have mixed feelings on it. By the way, I told Kyle this whole rundown of like the X-Men situation with Miss Marvel. He hasn't seen Miss Marvel yet, by the way, but I told him what happened. He was confused, and then he was pissed. So, that's where he is. So this guy's called the Watcher.
The Watcher.
The Watu? The Watcher. He clarifies, as this account is gaining traction, I want to clarify a few things. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a reporter. I'm a fan who knows a little more than most and has nothing to lose. All I want is to curate, verify, provide, yada, 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 leaks or whatever. So, again, this could all be false, but I just want to share this because I find it interesting. So this is what he said. Can confirm that Feige and company are treating S.H.I.E.L.D. as another universe. Daisy in 616, that's the main timeline, will have a new origin. However, aspects of her Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. story will be incorporated as a nod to all of the diehard fans. Me. Just to clarify.
Yeah, that's who.
I don't know if it needed to be clarified, but just to be clear. The creative team behind AOS gave their blessing.
Well, what else were they going to fucking do?
Right, like, yeah. Exactly. They wanted, the Marvel team wanted to respect the way S.H.I.E.L.D. ended and not overstep on where it left its characters. Their solution was to consider it a different timeline. I'm not sure I buy this as much as I buy into the idea that Feige really hates Inhumans and doesn't want to have them involved anyway.
You know what? I think that's the main reason. He doesn't want her as an Inhuman. He's like, fuck that. I'll turn her into a mutant. So that's just something that's a different universe, so I can turn her into a mutant.
And it's an easy fix.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's what's driving this. So that's where I would differ with what he says. This still leaves the door open for other cast members to make a comeback without ruining their character arcs on that show. Haven't heard anything about anyone else besides Chloe. They have some truly amazing stuff planned for Daisy, though. Can't wait for all of us to see it. It'll be worth the wait. I know that the news will disappoint some of my fellow S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, but the show isn't being erased. Your love for the show and the character is what got Chloe back to begin with. And then I think it goes on to say, the way I interpreted what my sources said was that something similar to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. happened in 616. Just some aspects of it are going to be retcon/changed. So Daisy can still have known Fitzsimmons, have been recruited by Coulson, yada, yada, yada.
Coulson
but
is
just
still
some
dead.
Differences. Yeah, or some differences here and there.
I know for a fact, I think.
Well, Coulson's still dead at the end of the regular.
But no, but like Kevin Feige, I think he never liked bringing him back. He liked him being dead in Avengers.
I thought that was Joss Whedon. That didn't like that.
It was Kevin Feige.
Okay. Chloe Bennett is returning as Quake for a small cameo role in Secret Invasion before appearing in Marvel Studios' Secret Warriors. Not Secret Wars, Secret Warriors is a different thing.
Oh, God.
If that's even a thing.
They
have plans...
Too many spinning plates.
I mean, yes, that's another thing. They have plans for the character beyond that as well. Agents of Atlas coming either as a Disney Plus show or in the Shang-Chi sequel. I've heard Arrow, Wave, and Quake will be connected to an elemental Asian myth that will be driving force of Agents of Atlas.
Oh, so we'll have a whole backstory about how she's connected to some ancient myth before going, psych, she's a mutant.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a whole different thing. And then one of the other ones, one of the more reputable, I guess, scoopers, retweeted that thread and also added in his take, and that is that's exactly how that's the rationale they're taking the approach with the Netflix universe characters, where it's like the same but different, which is what you've been saying the entire time. So, if, by the way, and that is a big if this is in fact true, what do you think?
I mean, I would have kind of poo-pooed it before, but after seeing Miss Marvel, like, yeah, for sure.
You can totally see it happening this way, right? Yeah.
Because for one, he's already brought back, like, Black Agara Bolt again, so he'll bring back anyone. And two, he's very much willing to break lore to turn everyone into an X-Men, a mutant.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if he's willing to do those two things, yeah, for sure, this makes sense.
And then next, that's just you clarifying how you feel of how feasible or how likely this is to happen. From a story standpoint, what do you make of it?
It's whatever.
It's whatever.
I'm sorry. There's nothing going on with these. Like, it's not even that there's no plan. It's just, it just feels like he's throwing shit at the wall at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a fan of the character, to see her back and
right.
interacting with like main MCU characters, that's fun in and of itself, right?
To an extent, yes. And that's the part I was kind of like gearing you towards, because the commonality that I found between Kyle and David's issues with this is the notion of her origin as an Inhuman just being completely retconned and then making her a mutant. And part of me understands that, and I feel it too, but let me just speak.
I think it's dumb, but I've accepted it already.
No, but yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, we're all on the same page then. It's dumb to do that. Yeah. And David also argues there could have been some rather simple ways to integrate the existing canon, shall I say, of that 7-season show into the MCU. The issue is Feige didn't want to do that because of Inhumans. Like, you could make the argument that Miss Marvel could have been the bridge to integrate that show and the lore of Inhumans. Sure. But they didn't want to do that. Okay, fine. Then comes the other aspect. Here's the thing. If it is in fact true that Chloe Bennett is returning and she's playing Quake, I would say that for me, at the end of the day, that would be a benefit to as a fan of the original series. I think that would be a benefit because it would get a lot of people to be curious to check that original show out and maybe continue to grow somewhat of a fan base as the years go by, with her being involved in these new projects with the MCU.
For sure.
And genuinely, it makes me happy for her, the actor,
Chloe
because I know particularly she was the one that was the most vocal of the entire cast with she was PO'd that Marvel didn't do anything for her outside of that show. And this would give her an opportunity to finally have a bigger pedestal, shall we say.
And you know what? Maybe this was one of the things where we're like, yeah, she wasn't supposed to be on the show. But sort of like John Krasinski, where people were like, oh, John Krasinski. And then Kevin Feige's like, fuck it, okay. And then at the last minute, he threw him in at Doctor Strange. That's probably what he's doing with the Secret Invasion.
Right. With throwing her in there. I mean, according to the source, that's what they're saying, is that the love for that character was what got the ball rolling to begin with, to her being in this universe.
I bet you the exact same thing happened, where it's like, fuck it, we basically have to reshoot this entire thing. It's missing cool cameos. Oh, a lot of people, like her. Okay, we'll throw her in here. Like, I 100%. I think I think
it is interesting because like the rumors of her being involved in this have been rampant since January of 2021. Chloe Bennett denied these rumors, I want to say in September or October of 2021.
Yeah, but if I remember, the writer of Doctor Strange 2,
Michael Waldron?
yeah, I think he literally saw some shit online and he was like, oh shit, that would be cool. And then he went to Kevin Feige. He's like, hey, can we do that? It's like, yeah.
Really? Interesting.
So I think probably the same thing happened here, where people were like insisting, like, oh yeah, like she'll be in it. Yes, yes, yes. We want to see her in it. And then Kevin Feige probably got a hold of it and he's like, okay, she'll be a mutant, but okay. You know? In the same way with like, with John Krasinski, it's like, okay, he'll be from another universe and he'll get his head popped, but okay.
So I would say, look, for me, clearly I'm the biggest fan of the series on this podcast.
Well,
here's what I'll say. Yeah, well. I mean, I'm one of only 2 people that's actually finished the show. I mean, Alexis even finished the show.
I finished it.
And she does. You skipped to the end.
I skimmed the last episode. No, I got the gist.
No, fuck you. No, I don't accept it. I reject your claim that you watched it. That's not what I consider to watch an episode.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Which is what Kevin Feige is doing with Quake here. Yeah, I agree. I think changing her into a mutant is quite dumb. And ultimately, in my heart of hearts, what would have been preferable and actually quite feasible was to integrate the show into the MCU. Putting that to the side. I think in some ways the benefits do outweigh, or the positives outweigh the negatives, in that Chloe Bennett and her as a talent would get much more of a spotlight, and this character would get even more popular, her being in this. Mm-hmm. That popularity, that newfound popularity, would drive traffic back to the old show, and that existing show would have none of its lore fucked with. And it gets to stand on its own. And not having to have been subservient or be retconned or, changed because it now exists in this MCU. So...
Oh, well.
I think at the end of the day, I would be fine with it. It's not at all what would be preferable, but hey, at least they're in the club. A club that's like on fire, but you're in the club. But it's really sad because like they ruined Miss Marvel. I think they've already ruined the X-Men. It's hard to get excited about anything, man. It really is.
Like I said, I'm somewhat like my curiosity is perked when it comes to the Marvels.
Sure.
And I am excited. I will say
that the leaks for Black Panther weren't discouraging.
Yeah, I'll say that too. I didn't hate them. Like as far as the story goes, it's like, yeah, this is a solid Black Panther story.
Sure, yeah.
And of course, Guardians 3.
And the holiday special, which is coming this year.
I mean, I don't count that. That's a special. It's not a movie.
But it's Guardians content. And in Guardians content, I'm here for.
Yeah. But like, as far as the TV shows, I almost feel like I'm done.
Yeah, like, isn't that strange?
I'm not excited for any of them.
I feel like something broke with Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, you reeled me in one too many times. You've played me one too many times. And now, like, from this point going forward, no. I mean, I'll catch them and I'll see them, but like, I'm not going to waste
even
breath.
Exciting. I feel like I don't give a fuck about an Agatha show, like,
or like a Riri Williams show, Ironheart, Echo, She-Hulk. I'm sorry, maybe She-Hulk can have something in it, but I thought that trailer was atrocious.
See, to me, it's like. Before, I would have been all up in arms, like, yeah, She-Hulk, because She-Hulk is a cool character. She's a lawyer. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with She-Hulk. But just knowing the way the Marvel shows have gone so far, it's like, I know what this is going to be. And
it might get you excited at the beginning, but by the end of it, you'll be, like, disappointed.
Maybe the first episode or two, I'm like, oh, I'm somewhat surprised. I'm so into this. And by the end, I'm like, well, I am no longer surprised. It's...
They are going to have more information, I would say, on Werewolf by Night, whatever that is. I'm not even sure what that is, but that's going to be one of the things they'll spotlight at Comic-Con. I don't know.
See, if they ever end up, and I assume they will, I hope it's a movie. I hope it's not a show. If they do like a Midnight Suns, where they have like all the like supernatural, basically a supernatural
Moon Knight,
team.
Ghost Rider, Blade, all those.
Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, Blade, I guess Werewolf by Night.
Right.
And then the Knight, what's his name? Black Knight.
Yes, Jon Snow.
Jon Snow, right? Oh, and then I think even Man-Thing, who is the Marvel version of Swamp Thing, because DC and Marvel were shameless in the way that they stole from each other.
Hilariously shameless.
Hilariously shameless. I mean, just because of who I am at the core of my soul, if they announce like a Midnight Suns movie, fuck a TV show, movie with that like core cast,
yeah,
I'd be forced to be excited for it. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's clear at this point that TV shows aren't doing it. I mean, that begs the question because
they
like they introduced a lot of characters.
That's what's so annoying. If they treated them like TV shows, because when Wanda was a TV show, it was fucking great. When Miss Marvel was a TV show, it was great.
It was great. Yeah,
and it's just like fuck.
This could be working, but you're choosing not to do it, and you're getting in the way consistently of it. But it also begs the question: there's so many characters on the board, man.
It's just
even all these rumors are just like what's next with Moon Knight? I like that character. What is it? Is he gonna get a movie? Is he gonna be in somebody else's movie? What's next?
The only thing I could imagine is like Midnight Suns. And the thing is, before
but they teased the Moon Knight season 2. Is that not going to happen at the end of the last episode?
What did we just talk about earlier about what their tease is?
But it's shit, man.
And the thing
really,
and the thing is, right? Like the average person used to be able to follow Marvel. It was tough, but it's like okay, you gotta go out and see the Marvel movie every couple of months, right? 3 times a year. It's a little tough sometimes, right? But you could do it. The average person is no longer capable of keeping up with everything Marvel. It's far too much. It's far too.
We're
confusing.
having a hard time as it is.
Yeah, I'm forgetting things, and it's like we're big stupid fucking nerds, right? So who love this shit. So it's like the average person. Guess what? They're no longer gonna treat Marvel as like a event thing because they can no longer keep up with the event. It's basically why I stopped watching TV for a while, because I couldn't keep up with the episodes week to week. So then I drop off because I don't want to hop back in when I don't know what's going on. And then it's like years go by and it's like, oh, I guess I'm just not watching this show anymore, right? Because I could never end up catching up. That's what's going to happen with people in Marvel, where it's like, yeah, I used to watch it and I used to keep, but now it's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm not too crazy about them now. Like, it's like, And it's like, you're going to start to see diminishing returns. But guess what? All of that goes away once they introduce X-Men and Fantastic Four. So it's weird.
At this moment, yeah, it's so weird. And also, with all of the stuff that's wrong with those shows, I want to extend a personal go fuck yourself to the Television Academy, because all of these shows, with all of their problems, garnered several nominations on, Emmy nominations day in the last week or so, including The Book of Boba Fett received 4 nominations. And why I'm extending a personal go fuck yourself was because 2 of the best shows of the last year, Peacemaker and Midnight Mass, received nothing. Not one nomination. Peacemaker could have very easily not only have been nominated, but won the category for Best Opening TV Sequence. And nope, it was nowhere to be seen. Midnight Mass, honestly, in my view, should be viewed as a front runner for limited series.
Oh, for sure.
It was a masterpiece of a show. Nothing. Not even Hamish Linklater got anything.
That's insane. He should have gotten something easily.
And yet people have the nerve to whine and moan that people like Tom Hiddleston or Oscar Isaac missed nominations.
Oh yeah.
They were good, but they weren't come on. They weren't award-winning good. Hamish was.
But
John Cena, I would say, should have been nominated for Best Comedy Actor, because Peacemaker, I think, would have very easily have slotted into the comedy categories. And Peacemaker is some of the funniest shit. I'll tell you that. I'll go out. Look, Peacemaker is so much funnier than Ted Lasso, and I love Ted Lasso.
Mm-hmm. But you know what the thing is? It's like the Emmys they're just worse than the Oscars, right? Like they kind of just pick their favorites and then they read. Like, why is The Simpsons still getting nominated? Like
34 seasons and it got nominated over Invincible. That's the other show I got pissed off they didn't get nominated. Invincible didn't get nominated.
Or Arcane did get nominated. Okay, good.
It did, but it probably will lose to What If. Why? Because What If was on Disney Plus, and for whatever reason, they have a hard-on for Disney Plus shows.
Yeah. Well, remember The Mandalorian won, like, all the awards?
It won, like, 7 Emmys, I think, its first year, but remember that Dave Filoni and Favreau received writing nominations. Writing nominations for Best Drama category. Writing and directing nominations.
It ain't right.
It ain't right. Ah, man. Anyway, that's the state of where we are. I guess next time we will come back with reviews for Jordan Peele's Nope, as well as the roundup for Comic-Con, and so much more heading into 2000 as we continue on with this year of 2022. Thank you, Peter, for making it on here. I know it was quite it was difficult for you, shall we say, for you to be on this podcast. It had to be rescheduled several times because of so many external forces, but thank you. I appreciate you donating literally 3 hours of your time. And of course, I thank all the audience for listening for this show. Remember to catch our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, every single Sunday. And stay under our spotlight for more content. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.